Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 3. Now let's start the fanfic. Naruto sat at his desk looking down at the exam. It said a lot for his training that he actually knew how to answer most of the questions, but at the same time he knew that there was no way in hell any genin should be able to answer them. I see the game here. He wants us to cheat. My guess is they planted people who knew the answers in the room and they want to see how good we are at gathering information, Naruto thought as he scanned the room to find anyone who had already started writing. He spotted 1 or 2 people in each section of the room. There they are. I don't need to cheat for this. Also, the fact that they haven't given the final question is weird. I bet this isn't the real test. This proctor is clever. He is trying to stress the contestants out. All leading up to the final question, which will be the real test, Naruto theorized. He grinned a knowing smile at Ibiki before shrugging and starting his test. That kid figured it out. I am sure of it. He doesn't look intimidated or worried in the slightest, not to mention I can't see how he is cheating at all. Does he know the answers already? Ibiki thought as he studied Naruto. He looks familiar. Where have I seen that boy before? He wondered and decided to look through the team sheets until he found Naruto's entrance sheet. Needless to say, the torture specialist was shocked to the core once he saw who it was that was sitting several meters in front of him. Naruto Uzumaki, you have really changed. I am surprised that I haven't had any extra work interrogating the civilians that attempted to harm him before he was kidnapped from the village. Anko was rather upset when he left, but she has always been a sadistic one, Ibiki thought as he looked at Naruto in wonder. Observation room. Kakashi and the other Junin sensei with teams in the exams were watching the exams on a large screen while eating popcorn. You know, I am starting to regret putting my team into these exams. Their chances of getting past the first round can't be that great with someone like Ibiki testing them, a tall man with a thin beard said while smoking a cigarette. What do you mean, Asuma? A dark wavy-haired kunoichi with red eyes asked. That's right, you wouldn't know. You have only just become a Junin, haven't you, Kurenai? Kakashi said. Kurenai nodded in response. Ibiki Morino is the head of the torture and interrogation branch of the Anbu, Asuma informed Kurenai. He has been known to be most unyouthful towards anyone he interrogates, the green-glad Junin said. You say something, guy? Kakashi asked. Aw, damn you, Kakashi, and your hip attitude. Guy whined. Surely he won't be allowed to harm the genin in the written exam. Kurenai said, shocked. That is not Ibiki's style, came a new voice from behind them. Jiraiya-sama, the 4 shinobi said when they saw who it was that had overheard their conversation. Why are you here? If you don't mind my asking, Guy said. Well, I came to see how my team are doing. Although there isn't much point as they are a sure bet, Jiraiya said confidently. Your team? You mean the team of wandering shinobi are trained by you? Asuma asked. Not exactly. Only one of them is, but the other 2 have been trained personally by top shinobi, Jiraiya said. And which youthful student is yours? Guy asked, pointing to the screen. But it was Kakashi who answered. The blonde one in the 3rd row. Naruto Uzumaki. Wait, you mean? Asuma spluttered, dropping his cigarette. Wait, isn't that the boy that the Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi into? Kurenai asked. The very same. He is my prized pupil, Jiraiya said proudly. Wait, if you are the sensei for their team, why haven't we seen you in the village? In the last couple of days? Asuma asked, lighting up a new cigarette to replace the one that fell on the ground. I was out of the village looking for Tsunade Hime. She would want to know about the fact that Naruto was competing in the Chunin exams. She would be able to make quite a bit of money off him. Enough to pay off almost all of her debts, Jiraiya said. You seem pretty confident, but my team is more than ready to fight anyone they come across in these exams. Because they burn with the brightest fires of youth, Guy said. Well then, how about a bet? To see which team does the best in the exams? Kakashi suggested. I'm in. I bet every one of my team make it to the finals and win in the first round unless they have to fight each other, Jiraiya said. Yosh. I too will nominate all 3 members of my team to make the final, Guy said. Well, from the sheer number of competitors, I would say there is going to have to be preliminaries, so I would say Sasuke will make it and maybe Hinata, Kakashi said. Yeah, I would say Shikamaru is easily Chunin material. I put my money on him, Asuma said. And I put my money on Shino from my team, Kurenai added. Well, that settles that. Now let's watch. This should be far less boring now that we all have money riding on it, Kakashi said. Their plan to make the exams more exciting turned out to be a total failure. No matter which way they looked at it, there was no way of making a written exam exciting. The only parts that could even be considered remotely exciting was looking to see how various people were cheating. Jiraiya was not surprised when 15 minutes in Naruto turned his page over and began to sleep. Exam room. It had been about 30 minutes and Naruto was getting bored. Try as he might, it just was not possible to fall asleep on a school desk. Weakly opening his eyes to look around, Naruto noticed something very weird. A small beetle had crawled onto his desk and over to him. This must be how someone is cheating. Jiraiya-sensei did say that there was a clan in Konoha that used a special type of insect that live inside their bodies, Naruto thought as he watched the beetle with interest as he scurried over to him. The insect climbed onto Naruto's arm and began exploring while it consumed small amounts of Naruto's chakra. Oh, I see, the person who sent you is interested in me, not my answers to the exam, Naruto said to the beetle as it continued consuming Naruto's chakra. After about a minute, the beetle had its fill of chakra and took off to return to the owner and relay its findings. Naruto subtly watched the beetle as it returned to a Konoha genin he could recall was named Shino. Naruto watched as Shino appeared to talk to the beetle that he sent to investigate Naruto and gave an emotionless nod to whatever was said by the insect before turning his gaze toward Naruto, who gave a friendly smile to the insect user. In response, Shino simply gave Naruto a nod and turned back to his exam paper. The rest of the written exam went without incident, and it was not long before Ibiki stood up at the front and began telling everyone the rules for the final exam. Naruto yawned until he got to the part where Ibiki told them that if they chose to take the final question but got it wrong, they would be excluded from taking the Chunin exams again, which caused Naruto to stifle a laugh and other people to burst out in angry complaints. Gotta hand it to this guy. He has sure gotten under a lot of people's skin easily. They are so tense and rattled that they are not using their brains. If they were calm, they would know that the Chunin exams are held every 6 months in a different village. Each village runs its own unique exams. So his threat to stop any team of genin from taking the exams is precisely that, a threat and nothing more. He wants to see if we have the guts to stay and face the final question, Naruto thought while analyzing the body language of the man. Naruto watched as people around him began to file out of the room one at a time. Unsure of how long this would actually take, Naruto leaned back and folded his arms behind his head while he rested his legs on the table, giving him a completely relaxed and careless expression. You think this is a game, huh? Ibiki said after he noticed Naruto reclining in his chair. Not really. But it is a rather amusing little test you came up with, Naruto replied offhandedly, causing other genin to look at Naruto as though he was insane for being so relaxed. So you are not worried at all about staying a genin for the rest of your life? Ibiki said, trying again to intimidate Naruto. Nah, could be fun. Besides, why would I fear the final question when I am already taking it? Naruto said, shocking the scarred Junin. Clever kid, he figured it out. Not only that, his relaxed attitude has made other ninja less certain about taking the question. He is attempting to psyche out the opposition whilst he knows he will go through. That is a Junin's level of thinking, not a Chunin, and certainly not a genin, Ibiki thought. Ibiki waited a bit longer as several more teams left, and eventually all the people that remained seemed sure that they wanted to continue. Well, looks like that's it for people who want to leave. So now, you all pass, Ibiki said. Naruto didn't look surprised, but most of the others in the room did. How do we pass? What about the final question? Temari asked. Do you want to stay? That was the final question. All the other questions were nothing but a distraction and to see how good you all were at information gathering. Out in the field, misinformation can lead to the death of yourself or your comrades. Also, collecting the proper information is of no use to anyone if you are discovered in collecting it or you lose the information to someone else, Ibiki said. Ibiki was about to continue his lecture when a large black ball smashed through the window. When everyone came to their senses about what they were seeing, they saw that the large black ball was a shapely kunoichi that was wearing very revealing clothing, a near see-through mesh top and a trench coat that just hid her nipples from showing. She also wore a tight miniskirt that sewed off a large portion of her long slender legs. She had shoulder-length purple hair that she kept tied up in a spiky ponytail and pupil-less brown eyes. In her hand was a large banner that read, "The sexy and single proctor for the second exam. Anko Mitarashi. Anko, you're early. Again," Ibiki said with a sweat drop. "Oh, sorry, Ibiki. You can continue your boring lecture if you want," Anko replied. "There is no point now," Ibiki sighed. And indeed there wasn't. Looking around the room, there was predominantly two expressions. The males who were all ogling Anko and trying to look at the areas either just hidden by the trench coat or mini skirt. Then there were the females who were angry at both the males for looking at Anko like she was a piece of meat, and angry at Anko for dressing like that. "Well then, maggots. You are with me now. Let's see." 42. "Ibiki, you must be losing your touch," Anko said. "Maybe. Or maybe we just have some very talented genin this year," Ibiki said, giving a sideways glance towards Naruto that only Anko and the blonde noticed. "Well then, looks like I am going to have to thin out their numbers. Don't worry, when I am done the numbers will be at least cut in half," Anko said confidently. "Well, that is the purpose of the second task," Ibiki sighed under his breath at the antics of his favorite apprentice. "All right, maggots. Training ground 44 in 30 minutes or you will be disqualified," Anko said before jumping back out of the window she shattered, leaving behind the large banner. Naruto shrugged and got out of his seat, followed by Akemi and Haku, who, having experienced the eccentricities of Jiraiya and Zabuza, were less shocked by Anko's actions than the others. But soon everyone realized what was going on and they came to their senses. "So how did you guys cheat?" Naruto asked. "I used my ice manipulation to make mirrors in front of my eyes that showed me the sheets of various people," Haku admitted. "I used swift release to quickly look at the pages of the people around me." "What did you do?" Akemi replied. "Nothing. I already knew how to answer most of the questions. And the others just sort of came to me as I looked at them," Naruto said. "Figures. And here I was hoping for some amazing ninjutsu that allowed you to see what was going on. I was half expecting you to use a shadow clone and have it go fetch you the answers," Akemi said. "I thought about it. But in the end it wasn't necessary," Naruto admitted. They were not the first team to arrive at the training ground 44, far from it in fact. Naruto and his team had been so relaxed on their walk they barely even took note of all the other teams that were running past them to make sure that they made it on time for the second task. Eventually the 30 minutes was up and Anko reappeared with several sticks of dango that she was happily eating. "Welcome, maggots, to my home away from home. Training ground 44, better known as the Forest of Death," Anko said in a threatening tone in an attempt to scare the genin. However, she then noticed Naruto. He didn't look scared at all, he looked bored. Perfect target to make an example of, Anko thought, and she whipped out a kunai and tossed it so it would graze the blonde's cheek. The only problem was her attack failed. Naruto lazily moved his head out of the way as the kunai flew right past. Not wanting to be outsmarted by a genin, Anko continued with he attacked, this time using a shunshin to appear behind Naruto, kunai in hand ready to slit his throat. Her plan once again failed miserably, however, and she found her kunai expertly blocked by one of Naruto's own and felt the cold steel of another kunai pressed against an artery in her exposed thigh. No way. Not by a genin, she thought in shock as everyone else began to stare in shock at the scene before them. Normally I would just kill someone who attempts to attack me like that. But it would be such a waste. Naruto whispered from where he was standing, her still pushed up against his back as she was still struggling to come to terms with the fact she had just been outmaneuvered with ease by a genin. You're no genin, you move faster than most of the Junin in this village, Anko hissed quietly in his ear, still not moving but returning to her correct state of mind. Maybe, or is it that you went easy on me because you underestimated my ability? Naruto said calmly, tapping the flat side of the kunai against her exposed inner thigh. And if I wasn't? Anko replied. Then your reputation holds a lot to be desired. Anko Mitarashi, Konoha's snake mistress, Naruto stated, still completely calm. While this was going on, nobody could hear what was being said. To all of the observers, it looked like the pair were almost holding each other tenderly, apart from the blade Naruto was effortlessly holding away from his throat. They could not see his own. This was getting Naruto some rather jealous looks from a majority of the male population and some rather disapproving looks from Akemi and several other girls, who had not forgiven Anko for her over-the-top dress sense. As fun as this is, I think you should return to telling the other scared little genin about the second task. Oh, and someone wants to return your kunai to you, Naruto said, before removing his kunai from the snake mistress's thigh. Oh, I bet your blood would taste divine, Anko purred into his ear before licking the side of Naruto's face. This got him. Naruto blushed. All the calmness he had was now gone. So you are human after all, she said with a seductive smile before backing away. Looking around, Naruto was met with the glares of almost everyone in the exams. All of the guys were now extremely jealous and the girls all thought he was a pervert. In fact, the only person who found the situation humorous was Haku. Anko backed away with a slightly satisfied feeling. She may not have gotten him with either of her attacks, but she was able to make him blush and lose his cool easy enough. Your kunai, Proctor-san. You should watch where you throw it, came a silky voice of a female ninja from Kusa. No way. 2 genin getting the drop on me in one day, I need some serious training. Anko thought as she spun around to see who it was that had approached silently and had gotten through all of her senses. Anko was slightly disturbed by the sight of the ninja. There was really nothing unique about her appearance. She was tall with long black hair. But her super long tongue made the snake mistress rather uneasy. It held the kunai out to her and placed it in Anko's hand. Thank you, Anko said, still unnerved. Don't mention it, the Kusa ninja somehow managed to say as her tongue retreated into her mouth. Creepy girl, Anko thought before turning to address the group of waiting genin. Now in the second task, your team will be competing against the others in a simulated real-life mission situation. This means that from the moment you enter the forest, anything goes. That is why you will all need to fill out these consent forms, Anko said. Oh, what are the forms for exactly? A genin from Iowa asked. They are so that Konoha will not be able to be held responsible for your death or injury should any occur, Anko replied as several chunin arrived to hand out the consent forms. Looks like this is where the exams really begin, Naruto said. You're right, but I feel you have shown enough skill to sufficiently frighten most teams from attempting to attack us, Haku said. Yeah, I wouldn't be so sure, Akemi said darkly. Why is that? Naruto asked. Well, while you were off flirting with the proctor, I noticed the 2 teams from Kumo. They all recognized me. You know that I have a huge bounty on my head, for my capture and safe return to the village. I believe they will target us in an attempt to capture me, Akemi said in accusatory tone. Hey, I wasn't flirting with her, Naruto said, but he knew that there was a small amount of flirting going on. Besides, if they target you, we will just have to stop them. I wouldn't let those Kumo bastards take you. Otherwise I lose my best friend. It's impossible to joke with Itachi-sensei, and Jiraiya-sensei is always running off to do his research, Naruto said. You never know, the fact that a couple of teams will be targeting us may prove to be beneficial. After all, I am sure that there is more to this exam than we have been told so far, Haku added. Yeah, you may be right. If I remember correctly, these guys are nothing special anyway. Just some middle to low in the pack shinobi from the years above mine when I was in the academy, Akemi said, her mood slightly improving. Then we shouldn't have anything to worry about, Naruto said calmly. After everyone had handed their consent forms in, Anko began to explain the second task in detail. Alright, now that's taken care of, we can move on. Your goal in this task is fairly simple. You need to get to the tower that is located at the center of the forest. However, there is a catch. To do so, you will need two objects. A heaven scroll, she held up her left hand to show the genin what they looked like. And an earth scroll, she raised her other hand to let everyone compare the difference between the two scrolls. Now each team will be given one of these two scrolls that can be hidden by whatever means you deem fit. Your goal is to locate and retrieve the opposite scroll so you have the pair and then make your way to the tower. Now that is said, if you open either of the scrolls before you get to the tower, you will be disqualified. Finally, you will have 5 days to complete your task, Anko informed the group. 5 days. What will we eat? Shoji asked almost desperately. The forest is filled with many things that are edible. Although quite a few of those things will also try to eat you as well, Anko chuckled. Shoji paled at the prospect of running out of food and began counting his packets of chips. Oh no, I don't think I have enough. He whined. Okay, so, send one person from each team to collect either a heaven or earth scroll, along with a gate number for your starting location, Anko said offhandedly before walking off to where she had a waiting plate of dango. Haku collected their earth scroll and the group slowly made their way to the gate they were assigned. I would wish you good luck. But from what I have seen, I doubt you will need it, Anko cooed as Naruto passed. Naruto didn't respond, he just gave the snake mistress a playful wink and smile while he walked on. Damn, I think I am starting to turn into a pervert like Jiraiya-sensei. No, it was just some harmless flirting. That doesn't make me a pervert. Even if she is almost 10 years older than I am, Naruto thought as he walked. They arrived at their gate, which they found, much to their disappointment, was quite far away from where the team from Odo had been located. Man, looks like finding them in here could be a bit of a problem, Naruto sighed as he had a closer look at the incredibly dense forest. Nah, we have almost 5 days to find them, Akemi replied. That is unless they finish the task early, Haku theorized. That's unlikely. This is the part of the exam where the security will be most lax. If Orochimaru gave them a specific job to do, then my guess is now would be the perfect time for them to do it, Naruto said. Yeah, makes sense to me, a whole forest with no Junin watching. Sounds like a perfect time for them to act, Akemi agreed. The buzzer rang loud in the air and the gates opened ahead of the shinobi. They wasted little time entering and making their way deep into the forest. It was close to half an hour later before Naruto and the others stopped. So what's the plan? Do we go straight after the Oto ninja or do we collect some scrolls first? Akemi asked. She was eager for some action after being stuck in Konoha with only sightseeing and basic training to occupy her time. Collecting some scrolls sounds like a good idea. How about we split up and each take out one team before returning here? Oh, and try not to kill them if you can help it, Naruto suggested. Alright, time for some fun, Akemi yelled happily. This is a good strategy. By collecting more scrolls than are required, we will lessen the competition later in the exams. I am in, although I do not share your eagerness to hurt my opponents, Akemi, Haku said. Oh, relax, I'm not going to kill them. Well, unless I have to. In the end, coming up against me will probably be far less painful than coming up against someone Naruto or many of the other teams that are in these exams, Akemi joked. Alright, so collect one scroll each then return here. I will see you guys soon, Naruto said before turning and jumping into the trees. Well, I'm off. Good luck, Haku-chan, Akemi called and darted away at lightning speed. With Naruto. It only took Naruto about 15 minutes to locate a team, a group of Kiri ninja. Well, they must be Yagura loyalists. There is no way the resistance would let their shinobi compete in a silly exam like this while there is a war still going on, Naruto thought as he watched the Kiri ninja from a distance set up a perimeter. Naruto waited until they had finished scouting and started to relax before he easily slipped past the perimeter's traps and landed right in the center of the three Kiri ninja. Hello, I would like you to hand over your scroll, thanks, Naruto said with a smile and a friendly attitude. Like hell, we would just give you our scroll. The boy who seemed to be the leader of the group yelled. Oh well, looks like we have to do this the hard way then, Shinra Tensei. Naruto said quietly, and a massive force of gravity flew forward, sending the three Kiri ninja flying. They flew back, crashing through several branches before eventually coming to a stop, unfortunately right on top of one of their traps. A large rope bound all three of their legs and hoisted the three ninja into the air. They quickly went for kunai to cut the ropes in order to free themselves, but no sooner had they drawn a blade than they were disarmed completely. Naruto then appeared sitting cross-legged on the branch holding the three ninja up. Now do you see how pointless it was to attempt to fight me? I watched you set up your base and knew where every one of your traps were. Some of them were very well hidden and made by the way, Naruto said, congratulating the trap builder. You kid, a light blue-haired kunoichi with shark-like teeth yelled. Sorry, you're not my type. I would be too scared that you might bite down, Naruto joked before flipping off his seat and landing on the ground so his eyes were at the same height as their suspended faces. Nice. You used chakra suppressing rope to prevent anyone from using a substitution to escape. But now that means you can't get out. So tell me where your scroll is or I will be forced to kill one of you, Naruto said. Gah, fine. It's in my ninja pouch that you removed after we were trapped, the boy who seemed to be the group's leader said. Now that wasn't so hard, was it? Naruto said, and he created a clone to check the pouch just in case it was booby-trapped. It wasn't, and Naruto had found the scroll he needed. Well, thanks for the help. See you guys around, Naruto said, and he turned to leave after giving them a friendly wave goodbye. Hey, wait, aren't you going to cut us down? The kunoichi asked. No, why would I want to do that? You could attack me. Besides, with teeth like that I am sure you can bite your way through your ropes in no time, Naruto replied before jumping away perfectly between two hidden traps. With Akemi. It had taken the dark-haired former Kumo ninja a while longer than Naruto to find her target, but when she did, she was pleased with what she had found. Three rather slow-looking Iwa genin. Perfect. I can simply just attack them quickly and be back without any fuss, she thought as she quickly overtook the team that was heading deeper into the forest. Hey there. Hand over your scroll and you don't need to get hurt, Akemi said in an authoritative tone. Hey, and what could a little helpless kunoichi all alone do to us? A large and thick-headed ninja wearing the traditional Iwa uniform said. He had shaved his head bald, and that just made him look even more like a rather hopeless excuse for a ninja. Well, I guess I could do this, Akemi said, and in the blink of an eye she had disappeared and reappeared with her fist buried deep into the face of the bald genin. Again she vanished, only to appear this time behind a short ninja with a bowl haircut not too far from a copy of Rock Lee's. Unlike Lee, however, he was not lean and built for fast movements. He was shaped more like an overgrown beach ball, and it was a quite comical sight when Akemi kicked him away and he almost seemed to bounce. Wah! What the hell are you? The final member of the group said. I'm bored, Akemi replied before delivering a winding blow to the final genin's gut. Now hand over the scroll or this will become painful, she said, holding out her hand expectingly. Okay. Here, take it, he said, handing over the scroll as the last of his consciousness faded. Well, that was easy. Then again, they are just genin, Akemi sighed before jumping off to return to the meeting location. With Haku, the Ai's user's style was a little different from that of Naruto and Akemi. Rather than simply confront her targets head-on, she stalked them like the hunter ninja she used to pretend to be. And thanks to her practice with Senbon, once the group of ninja she was following had stopped, she expertly sent Senbon needles into key locations in their bodies, completely paralyzing the ninja. I am sorry I had to do that. Now tell me where your scroll is. That is, if you can still talk. I should have left you with that ability, Haku said, appearing out from the shadows. What the hell have you done to us? The ninja said as he struggled and failed to move. I have paralyzed you from the neck down. I suggest you tell me where the scroll is and I won't make it permanent, Haku said in a stoic expressionless tone. Man, we don't have a choice, either way we are going to lose it to her. May as well just give it up and try to locate some more later, another member of the team said. Your teammate is smart. If you hand over your scroll you will still have 4 more days to find another one, Haku said. Alright, fine. The scroll is in my backpack, the first ninja to speak said. Very good. I hope for your sake you are tell the truth. If those Senbon needles are not removed within 15 minutes the effects are permanent, Haku said. After retrieving the scroll she removed all of the Senbon from the 3 ninja that were her target. Haku was the last to arrive back at the meeting point, mostly due to her more secretive style of attack to the direct approaches that Naruto and Akemi liked to employ. So now what? Akemi asked once Haku had handed over the scroll that they put together with the others they collected. Well, it is getting late, so I suggest we make camp for the night and begin out search for the Oto ninja in the morning, Haku suggested. Good idea. We will take it in 3-hour shifts to keep guard overnight, Naruto said. They built a rather comfortable camp for themselves with a large fire and well spread out tents. They were not overly worried about a possible ambush as they knew that any one of them could handle a squad of genin. The next morning they went off on a search for the Oto ninja. Naruto had summoned several birds to scout the area while they moved towards the center of the forest. It was late in the day that Naruto received word that they had found them. One of my summons found them, not that far from here actually. They are currently fighting with a group of Konoha ninja, Naruto said. Well then what are we waiting for, let's get going. Akemi said eagerly. Naruto didn't reply and just took off in the direction of the team from the sound. They landed on a large branch overlooking a clearing. In that clearing the green-clad ninja that had so effectively wiped the floor with Sasuke was looking in a bad way. Next to him Naruto recognized Shikamaru, Ino and Sakura. What should we do? Akemi whispered. Strike now while they are not looking. Haku suggested. We could, but I would rather have some fun with them, Naruto said. Down on the forest floor things were not looking good for the group of Konoha ninja. Zaku finished them off, the mummy-faced member of the Oto team ordered. With pleasure Dosu, the spiky-haired Zaku replied. As interesting as all this is. I am afraid I will not be letting that happen, came Naruto's voice from high in the trees before he landed at the far end of the clearing. You're that freak that basically let that proctor lady have her way with you, the kunoichi of the group said. Shut it. That isn't what happened, Akemi said landing beside Naruto followed by Haku. Well whatever, so you have come to suffer with these Konoha fools have you? Dosu asked. Oh not exactly, more like came to interrogate you about your leader, Orochimaru, Naruto replied. Interrogate us? Don't make me laugh. You won't be able to even come close to harming us, Zaku said. Akemi broke out laughing at this. Okay Naruto, I think I will let you do this by yourself. It will be hilarious to see the looks on their faces when you destroy them, she said in between fits of laughter. Naruto casually walked forward while the 3 Oto ninja readied their attack. The Konoha ninja in the clearing just couldn't believe their eyes that someone who was not even a Konoha shinobi had come to their rescue. Suddenly there was a massive spike in chakra that got even Naruto's attention. What foul chakra? Nowhere near as potent as Kyuubi's, but still this is disgusting, Naruto thought as they looked at the hole at the base of a tree where the chakra was coming from, and Sasuke rose up, his face now marked in a pattern of small flames. Sasuke stood up and enjoyed the feeling of power surge through his body. Yes. With this power I can finally kill Itachi. The raven-haired Uchiha thought. Then he noticed Sakura and the others were hurt. Sakura, who did this to you? Sasuke asked. Sakura pointed at the team from Oto and Sasuke took off. Faster than any of the Konoha or Oto ninja could follow, even Haku had a difficult time following his movements. The same could not be said for Naruto and Akemi. Naruto allowed Sasuke the first strike just to see what kind of power this chakra could cause, but when Sasuke went for a follow-up he found his arm being held. You! Sasuke roared and violently lashed out at Naruto, causing the blonde to back flip away. Whatever this chakra is, it is not natural and we need to shut it off, Naruto said. Tell me where my brother is. Now! Sasuke yelled and charged forward. The Konoha ninja that were shocked by Sasuke's speed and strength before were now stunned into complete silence. Naruto had caught Sasuke's fist with ease and tossed him away like a rag doll. You cannot fight me while you are in that mental state. Your moves are predictable and easy to follow, Naruto said lazily. During this encounter the team from Odo were trying to escape. However, Akemi had other ideas and along with Haku rounded them up to make sure they didn't go anywhere. I will not be talked to like I am some child. Sasuke roared and charged again. This time Sasuke didn't even get close to Naruto, as without even moving Naruto sent Sasuke flying back with a burst of gravity. There is no talking to you like this. I need to put you out so that vile chakra will retreat, Naruto said, and in one movement flew across the clearing and slammed his fist into Sasuke's gut. The unique chakra receded into a small mark of 3 tomo on Sasuke's neck and Naruto turned to face the team from Odo. Now I am no longer in the mood for games. Tell me where Orochimaru is and what he is planning, Naruto said. His face was now deadly serious. We can't tell you anything. Orochimaru would kill us, the kunoichi said. Well then we will just have to play a game called Cooperate or Lose a Soul, Naruto said. It was like he had transformed. Gone was the carefree teen who was joking just moments ago with his friends. This was a fully serious ninja who would get the answers he seeks one way or another. What's going on? Haku asked Akemi, slightly scared. Naruto has stopped playing around. Whatever that chakra was that boy was using, it was not his own and Naruto must think Orochimaru is responsible for it. When someone is being harmed, Naruto is like a completely different person. Completely serious and incredibly deadly, Akemi informed Haku. Now I am going to ask you once more. What are Orochimaru's plans? Naruto said, approaching the spiky-haired Zaku. You! Zaku yelled and thrust a palm forward and wind shot out of his palms. The futon just seemed to hit an invisible wall around Naruto and deflect away from the blonde, however, who proceeded to grip the genin's hand and crush it with his own strength. Zaku screamed in agony while the others just watched in horror as Naruto placed his free hand on top of Zaku's head. Human path, Naruto said, his eyes rippling with energy. The following scene would shock all of the ninja present other than Akemi to their very core. Naruto removed his hand from Zaku's head and he let out a silent scream as his voice left him. Attached to Naruto's hand was the transparent form of a soul that had been removed from its body, screaming in agony. Sakura couldn't watch anymore and turned her head away, not wanting to believe what she had just seen. While the others couldn't look away. Well, it turns out he knew nothing. What about you? What is that mark on Sasuke's neck? And what is Orochimaru planning? Naruto asked the kunoichi, who looked at Naruto like he was the incarnation of the Shinigami come to take her before her time. I don't know, she cried. Dosu was out leader, he knows everything. Orochimaru gave him the mission, we were just his backup. I see, Naruto said and turned to Dosu, who did not seem anywhere near as intimidated. I'm not telling you shit, you freak. The mummified genin spat. Very well then, I will extract the knowledge from you and judge your soul at the same time, Naruto said. And he created 2 clones to rush forward and hold Dosu down while Naruto placed his hand on the Odo genin's head. Once more Naruto removed the soul from the genin's body. Without only the slightest hint of remorse in his eyes. I have the information we need. Sasuke should be okay, there is no permanent physical damage done to him. We should go, Naruto said. There was now a small amount of sadness in his voice. He then turned to address the Konoha shinobi. I am sorry you had to see that, it is not something that I enjoy doing. But those two both enjoyed the pain and suffering of others, and if allowed to live would only bring more pain into the world. Akemi, Haku, we're leaving to the tower, Let's go, Naruto said sadly, and he turned in the direction of the large tower in the center of the forest and kicked off. Haku was still shocked at what she had seen Naruto do. She had been told of Naruto's ability to remove a person's soul. But it was one thing to hear about something, and another entirely to see it happen before her eyes. Naruto had been quiet since they left the clearing, and Haku was slightly worried. The Joker, an all-round friendly person she had the pleasure of getting to know over the last few weeks, seemed to be replaced by a distant dark character that had ripped the souls out of two people. Is he alright? Haku asked Akemi in a whisper. I think so. He often gets a little upset after using that jutsu, Akemi said. So he can read someone's mind, but he has to remove their soul at the same time. Haku asked, wondering how the jutsu works. Not exactly, Naruto said, stopping suddenly. Haku was shocked. She didn't think the blonde could hear them from where he was out in front. The jutsu allows me to touch someone's soul and gain whatever information I need. Jiraiya-sensei thinks I could use it to learn jutsu from enemies, but I have never tried. Anyway, as I was saying, it allows me to touch someone's soul and it shows me what type of person they are. Those two back there in the clearing were horrible. They enjoyed inflicting misery upon others, they had no desire to change their ways. So I couldn't let them live, I killed them to save the people that they may have harmed later in life. But even so, to take a life like that is not pleasurable to do, Naruto said. So you could say, read Jiraiya-sama's mind and leave him alive? Akemi asked. Yes, I could. But I really do not trust anything that Jiraiya-sensei has in his mind. It could turn me into a pervert, Naruto said, feeling much better after getting some of what he was feeling off of his chest. Akemi and Haku both smiled at the return of the more relaxed, fun-loving Naruto. They were very close to tower when Naruto stopped again. We are being followed, he said, slowly turning around. Who is it? Haku asked. I don't know. 3 ninjas, so I am guessing they are nothing more than genin trying to challenge us, Naruto said calmly. From the trees 3 Kumo ninja appeared. They stopped in their tracks when they came face to face with the 3 Yoinokuchi ninja. I suggest you 3 leave. We have no desire to fight you, Naruto said. Even though he knew it wouldn't work, he had to give the Kumo ninja a chance to escape. We don't care about these exams anymore. If we can capture her, we will get promoted anyway. A ninja at the front of the group. He was highly tanned and had curly white hair. Very well then. But I didn't want to have to do this, Naruto sighed. What do you say? 1 each? He asked. You're on. How about first one to incapacitate their opponent gets lunch brought for them by the other 2 when we get out of this forest? Akemi said. I'm in. What about you, Haku? Naruto asked. Very well, I agree, Haku said as she pulled out several Senbon needles. Go! Akemi yelled as she blurred out of existence and flew forward. Naruto and Haku were caught off guard along with the 3 Kumo ninja. Bansho Tenin, Naruto said when he regained his composure. The Kumo ninja he targeted was yanked forward and flew toward Naruto at the same time as Haku launched a hail of perfectly aimed Senbon at her target. They were both too slow, however, as a split second before both Naruto and Haku both finished off their targets, Akemi reappeared with a chop to the back of the Kumo ninja's neck. Done, she yelled happily just as Naruto slammed his fist into the leader of the group's face, sending him flying, and Haku's Senbon left her opponent paralyzed. Looks like I win. Free lunches for me, Akemi said while dusting her hands of imaginary dirt. No fair, you cheated, Naruto said. Too bad. You agreed to the bet, now you both owe me lunch, Akemi said. Well, I guess we will just have to make it a cheat as well and make you a sandwich, Haku said with a joke. No way. I want to go back to that dango place, Akemi yelled. Well, it's only fair. After all, you didn't say what we had to get you for lunch, Naruto joked. Well, now I am telling you that it is going to be dango, Akemi said. Sorry, too late for that. If it wasn't in the original bet, it doesn't count, Naruto replied. Look, let's just take this team scroll and go, Akemi said before grumbling about cheap teammates. Looks like they have already had their scroll taken, Naruto said. It doesn't surprise me, these three were not very good back in the academy. They were all in the final year when I entered the academy but had to repeat twice after failing the exams. They must have graduated after I left though. But I don't know why they would even try to challenge us, Akemi said. Who cares, let's just get to the tower, Naruto said. Team Yoinokuchi made it to the tower, and after opening the scrolls they were led inside by one of the chunin that had helped hand out the consent forms for the second task. Naruto was rather disappointed when they showed them to a dorm room with separate bedrooms. He had been hoping they could have left to return to the village and wait for the final task rather than wait for the 5 days to be up. Well, it looks like we have some time off. Hey Naruto, what did you end up finding out from the Oto ninja? Akemi asked after she had a shower and cleaned up from spending the better part of 2 days inside the Forest of Death. They were ordered to kill Sasuke Uchiha, but it appears that was nothing but a test. Orochimaru gave Sasuke something called a curse mark. I don't know much about it, I will need to ask Jiraiya-sensei. As for Orochimaru's overall plan, I was not given much. He is planning an attack on Konoha, that much is certain. But he didn't know when or who was helping him. But I have a feeling it might be Suna. He had been given orders to stay far away from the teams from Suna, Naruto said. Suna, huh? But isn't Suna Konoha's ally? Akemi asked. Things change. They were indeed allies, but who knows? I know Suna has not been given much support from their own daimyo recently. Maybe them helping Orochimaru is because of that. Either way, I need to see Gigi as soon as possible to give him the information, Naruto said. The days passed without much incident, however, and the only point of interest for Naruto and the rest of his team was the arrival of the other teams that had made it to the tower. Naruto was pleasantly surprised that quite a few of his old classmates were arriving. Finally, on the last day of the exam, they were called to a large hall. Waiting for them there were both proctors of the previous rounds as well as all the sensei of the teams that passed the second round, Jiraiya included. Naruto noticed that all the teams that had passed were from Konoha apart from them and the team from Suna with the red-headed Jinchuriki. Of the teams from Konoha, 3 of them comprised of his former team members, while there were 2 other teams. One of them looked like they were about a year older than Naruto and the others were quite a bit older still. Naruto recognized the silver-haired Kabuto in their ranks. A couple of moments later and there was a new arrival in the hall. The Hokage walked in and took a seat at the center of an elevated platform at the far end of the hall. After Hiruzen had become comfortable, he began to speak. Hello and congratulations in making it through the Forest of Death. Unfortunately, we have too many people to proceed to the final round of the exams. Therefore, we will be holding a preliminary round of matches now. With that said, teams are no longer in use and should any individual want to pull out now, that will be allowed, the Hokage said. Yes, I can't fight anymore, Kabuto said, raising his hand. Very well, you may leave, the proctor said. He doesn't even look fatigued. Why did he pull out? Naruto thought with narrowed eyes, watching Kabuto leave the hall. Similar thoughts were running through the mind of the proctor, but he didn't say anything about it. Anyone else? The proctor said before descending into a coughing fit. After he was satisfied that nobody else would be leaving, the Hokage went on with a lecture about how the Chunin exams are a competition watched by people from all over the elemental nations and were designed as a way of settling disputed between villages other than war. After the Hokage had finished speaking, the next proctor spoke up. His voice seemed weak and he kept coughing every couple of words. My name is Gecko Hayate and I will be the proctor for the preliminary fights. Now these will be one-on-one matches, picked at random. All other contestants are to make their way to either side balcony where they can watch the matches, the sickly-looking Junin said. All the competitors looked up at 2 large screens overlooking the arena floor. The names stopped spinning on Sasuke Uchiha and Yoroi Akato. Naruto shrugged and went up to the balcony where Jiraiya was quietly talking to Kakashi and the other Konoha sensei. Hey, congrats Gaki, you made it here, Jiraiya said when he saw Naruto and the others. Did you really think we wouldn't? How was your research, you old pervert? Naruto said, adding the insult as payback for Jiraiya calling him a brat. I will have you know I didn't do any research. I had to find Tsunade Harem. She would have killed me if she knew you were competing and she didn't place a bet on you, Jiraiya said. That basically means that I am going to lose, Naruto sighed. Yeah, I guess it does, Jiraiya joked. Oh well, it will be interesting to see just who beats me. Naruto chuckled and moved on to allow the Konoha teams to join their senseis. Sasuke's fight was not all that exciting, at least until the end, where Sasuke had to repress the curse seal from taking over. They only used taijutsu, and even then it was rather basic. But Naruto had to admit Sasuke was probably better than your average genin. At the end of the fight, Kakashi arrived to take Sasuke away. Why is Sasuke-kun being taken away? A long-haired blonde girl Naruto remembered was called Ino said. He has had a curse mark placed on him. It needs to be sealed before it starts to influence him, Naruto said calmly but loud enough for all of the Konoha ninja to hear. Who did that to Sasuke-kun? Ino said angrily. Konoha missing ninja and one of the legendary Sannin. Orochimaru, Naruto replied. The other shinobi didn't say anything, but Jiraiya had a small smile on his face. He knew that if Naruto knew that, then he had completed his mission and found out something about what his old teammate is planning. The Konoha ninja were brought out of their shock when the large computer screen came back to life and the names of the remaining ninja began to spin. It stopped on the names Shikamaru and Sai. Naruto found this match very interesting. Sai used a type of genjutsu with ink to create animals to fight for him, while Shikamaru contorted his shadow in an attempt to capture his target. Eventually Shikamaru won when Shikamaru used a kunai to change the direction of a ceiling light, causing his shadow to move forward much faster than Sai could move, trapping the ink user, forcing him to give up. That's quite a useful skill, Naruto said. Yes, the Nara clan is famous for their shadow jutsu, Jiraiya said. The next fight was Temari Subaku against Tenten. Naruto felt kind of sorry for Tenten because it was clear that she was a talented kunoichi, but she just had the misfortune of coming up against a Fuden user who had access to a large fan to help her manipulate the wind. Still, the fight left a slightly bad taste in the mouth with how it ended. Temari could have caused some serious damage to the young weapons mistress if it wasn't for her teammate in green spandex saving her. Man, when are we going to get to fight? I hate the waiting, Akemi whined once Temari had left the field and went to join her brothers and sensei. There have only been 3 fights so far. Are you really that impatient? Naruto asked. Yes. Now let's hurry this up, Akemi said. Oh, I am going to take my time if I fight before you, Naruto teased. Agreed, Haku added. Oh, you guys are mean, Akemi huffed, folding her arms and turning away in mock anger. The next names up were not any of the 3 Yoinokuchi ninja, however. Rather 2 Konoha ninja, Kiba Inuzuka versus Ino Yamanaka. The fight was over quickly. Kiba was much faster than Ino, and with help from his dog Akamaru was easily able to get behind Ino and place a kunai under her throat, causing Hayate to call the match in Kiba's favor. Ha, take that, Ino pig, you lost to dog breath. Sakura yelled. Shut it, forehead, you still have to fight, you know, Ino said. Whatever, I am ready for whoever I get, Sakura said confidently. That confidence was soon erased, however, when she found out just how cruel fate can be. She almost lost her breath when the computer screen stopped, revealing the names Sakura Haruno and Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto, who had been listening to Sakura's arrogance, couldn't help but smirk a little as he passed her walking down to the arena. What, you're not scared of him, are you, forehead? I thought you were ready for anyone. Ino asked, pleased the tables had turned. Shut up. I'm not scared of that baka. Sakura yelled, trying to convince both Ino and herself. Careful, Sakura. You can pull out if you want, Kakashi said, knowing that his pupil didn't stand a chance. No, I am going to fight, she said, and made her way to join Naruto in the center of the hall. Alright, competitors ready? Gekko asked. Yes, Sakura said, and Naruto only nodded, not getting into a stance and standing with his hands crossed. Hey, you don't think he is really going to drag this fight out, do you? I don't know how much longer I can wait. Akemi said, looking down at where Naruto looked completely relaxed. I don't know, you know him better than I do. Do you think he would drag this out? Haku replied. Yes, Akemi moped, smacking her head on the railing. Down in the center of the hall, the proctor stated the fight, and Sakura took off, launching several kunai at Naruto while she attempted to get behind him. They didn't get far, however, as the kunai seemed to hit an invisible barrier and just fall to the ground, shocking everyone watching apart from Jiraiya and his team. What was that? Kurenai asked as once again another hail of kunai sent from Sakura failed to get even remotely close to Naruto. I don't know, it seems like he has put up some kind of barrier around him that stops anything from approaching, Kakashi said, revealing his Sharingan to get a closer look. Meanwhile, Naruto had yet to move and was still standing with arms folded. Naruto quirked an eyebrow when Sakura stopped running and started to perform several hand seals. A jutsu, so she is finally trying something else, Naruto thought. The world began to change around him and he found himself trapped in a rather basic genjutsu. Naruto simply disrupted his chakra flow, canceling the jutsu. Are you finished yet? Naruto asked. No. You just want me to quit because you don't think you can beat me. In the end, you are nothing but a reject of Konoha that was thrown out because you were nothing but a troublemaker and loser. I remember you, always getting into trouble because you never had anyone to give you any discipline. Who knows, your parents probably just abandoned you, Sakura said, forgetting for a moment just what Naruto did to Sasuke and the team from Oto in the Forest of Death. Up in the stands, Jiraiya cracked his fingers, angered by what Sakura had just said. But that was nothing compared to how angry Naruto was feeling, and he was going to make the pink-haired Kunoichi pay for what she had said. Unfolding his arms, he turned to Sakura and extended one hand forward towards her. In the other, he began gathering chakra. Bansho Tenin, he said, his voice void of all emotion. Sakura had nothing to grab onto and flew uncontrollably towards Naruto, who had in his hand a spinning ball of chakra ready to finish the fight. Rasengan! Naruto yelled, driving the jutsu into the young Kunoichi's stomach. Everyone in the arena was shocked. Jiraiya for the fact that Naruto would go that far, and the others at the fact that they just witnessed a jutsu that they would never have thought that a young teenager could perform, even if it was Jiraiya's student. The only person who didn't seem to be shocked in any way was Akemi, and that was mostly because she was happy that Sakura had got what was coming to her when she said those things about Naruto and the fact she was now one match close to her own fight. On the other side of the hall, the team from Suna were even a little scared of Naruto. They had watched the match and saw that every attack that Sakura had tried, even if they were basic, didn't get anywhere near the blonde. Gaara looked at Naruto like it was his destiny and wanted more than anything to kill the blonde. Medics came and rushed Sakura to the hospital while Naruto silently walked back up to his place on the balcony, ignoring the shocked looks from the other contestants and some of the Junin. Don't you think you went a little over the top? I mean, you could have won that fight easily without doing so much damage, Jiraiya said once Naruto arrived. Back with his team. She deserved it, Akemi said. Well, I guess she did, but a Rasengan could have killed her, Jiraiya said. I didn't use much power in it. With medical jutsu she should be up and moving again in about a week, Naruto said. Well, I guess that is better. I mean, a fully powered Rasengan is a killing blow if it hits a vital area, Jiraiya said. Look, I don't care about any of this, I just want it to be my turn. Akemi said as the computer came back to life after the medics removed the unconscious Sakura from the arena. She was to once again be disappointed, however, as her name didn't come up. Instead, the names that appeared on the screen were that of Neji Hyuga and Hinata Hyuga. This could be a top match. The Hyuga taijutsu style is in a league of its own thanks to their Byakugan, Jiraiya said, looking on sagely as the two competitors made their way down to the ring. Looks like Hinata is in a bit of pain though. She was out cold when we ran into her team in the forest. My guess would be Orochimaru, Naruto said. Down in the arena floor, Neji was glaring harshly at his cousin. Just quit, Hinata. You don't stand a chance against me, No matter how much you have improved, you are still a loser and always will be, Neji said. I used to believe that as well, Neji-Nisan. That I was a failure and could never change, but I worked hard and improved so that I wouldn't be a failure anymore. Someone encouraged me to be more than I was. And I will not give up no matter how badly hurt I am already. I will fight you. Even if I lose, I do not care because you are my family and I will still love you like a brother either way, Hinata said before dropping into her stance. If that is your wish, Neji said coolly before entering his own. Naruto-kun is watching. I have to do my best not just for myself, but I want to show him just how much I have improved, Hinata thought. But the second the proctor started the match, those thoughts were gone and her face held nothing but determination. They met in the center and both Hyuga were attacking with deadly accuracy. To the untrained eye and those that did not understand the gentle fist taijutsu style would have thought that neither were getting in any decent hits, but when they broke apart after the first little skirmish, Neji had a small amount of blood coming from his mouth and so did Hinata. Unfortunately for the kunoichi, however, it seemed as though her left arm was also affected. You were actually able to damage me. Maybe you have improved, but you are still a long way away from being able to challenge me, Neji said before rushing in for round 2. As the fight wore on, it became more and more obvious that Neji was superior and Hinata's prior injuries seemed to be catching up with her along with the damage that Neji was doing, and after a while Neji jumped back and Hinata collapsed. Call the match, she won't be getting back up. Like I said, once a loser, always a loser, Neji said, and he began walking towards the balcony. You are wrong. You may have won this fight, but I do not see myself as a loser just because I lost to you, Hinata said, struggling to stand. Why you? Neji roared and he charged at Hinata, aiming for her heart. He didn't get there, however, as a massive force threw him into the wall. What the? Neji said, looking for whatever hit him. Neji found the culprit in Naruto standing at the opposite side of the hall walking forward. I believe she conceded defeat. She was also defenseless. It is a despicable act to attack a comrade when they are already down, and even worse when that comrade is family, Naruto lectured. She is not family. She is the main house, born to be spoiled and have everything done for her, while I am in the branch house destined to be nothing more than a servant, a caged bird. But what would an outsider like you know about anything? Neji said. You're right, maybe I don't know. But what has she done to justify you trying to kill her? Naruto said. I do not need to explain anything to you. But it seems the main house gets special treatment even here, Neji replied. Special treatment? Is that what you call saving someone's life? Naruto said. Neji just huffed and stalked away to rejoin his team and the other Konoha genin. His sensei Mighty Guy looked at him with pity and a little disappointment but said nothing. Are you alright, Hinata? Naruto asked, turning his attention to the Hyuga heiress, who was just barely standing. Yes, but it will take some time to heal. I should go see the medics. Thank you for your concern, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, fighting down the blush that was creeping onto her face despite the pain she was in. Naruto helped her onto a stretcher before returning to his team. So correct me if I am wrong, but I do believe that young Hyuga girl likes you, Jiraiya said. You're imagining things, Naruto replied. I could see her blush from up here, Haku teased. Oh come on, she was hurt, that was probably just because of her injuries, Naruto said. Isn't that the same girl that found you in the park the night we left Konoha? Jiraiya asked semi-seriously. Naruto knew his sensei just wanted to tease him some more, but Naruto for some reason answered anyway. Yes, it was. Well then I guess she must have been waiting a long time for your return. Maybe you should go comfort her. I bet she would like that, the toad sage joked. I'm telling you it's not like that. Besides, even if it was, it would never work. Once these exams are over there is no need to stay in Konoha and she can't just come with us, Naruto said. He's right, if a main branch Hyuga was to leave the village we would have the whole village after us, Akemi said. Jiraiya dropped the topic after that and they turned their attention to the large computer screen waiting for the next match to be announced. Come on, there are only 3 fights left. I don't want to be the last one up, Akemi whined. The only other person that looked as eager to fight as Akemi was the green-clad mini-clone of Guy, Rock Lee. And both were highly disappointed when neither of their names came up. Haku Momoichi vs Kankuro Subaku. The board read and Akemi deflated. Momoichi, does she have any connection to Zabuza Momoichi, the demon of the bloody mist? Asuma asked, walking over to Jiraiya after he saw the name on the screen. Yes, she is Zabuza's adopted daughter, Jiraiya answered. So she must have been the fake hunter ninja on the bridge in the Land of Waves, Kakashi said from within earshot. Yes, that's right. Haku was traveling with Zabuza when Naruto and Itachi found them, Jiraiya said. Itachi. You mean Itachi Uchiha? Kakashi, you never said anything about running into Itachi on any of the missions your team had, Asuma said, shocked. Well, you see, because of his arrival and the arrival of Naruto, the mission events became classified by the Hokage, Kakashi said offhandedly. Jiraiya-sama, why are you working with someone like Itachi Uchiha? Asuma asked in complete shock. Why not? He is a great ninja, able to teach Naruto about things like genjutsu far better than I ever could, and he is no danger to anyone as long as they aren't an Uchiha, Jiraiya answered. But he killed his entire clan. Don't you think he might be dangerous to keep around? Asuma said, still not believing what he just heard. A ninja's life is dangerous. Personally, I would prefer Itachi as an ally to an enemy. And as you said, he killed his entire clan. Nobody else in Konoha was harmed by him. He left without touching a single non-Uchiha. So the way I see it, as long as we don't have the Sharingan and a massive ego problem, we are safe, Jiraiya said, causing Naruto to chuckle, knowing that was exactly what Sasuke was like. The match started and Haku and Kankuro seemed to be rather evenly matched in terms of taijutsu. But Naruto knew that was not Haku's strength. Her strength was with throwing weapons and Hyoten and Suiten ninjutsu. Her Futen needed work as she had not trained with her second element yet. Then Naruto noticed something was a little odd about the way Kankuro moved, and he channeled some chakra into his eyes to enable him to see chakra. He is a puppet. The real Kankuro is hiding in the thing he was carrying on his back, Naruto thought as he could now see the chakra strings quite clearly. He did not share this information with his teammate, however, as he wanted to see if Haku would figure it out for herself or not. Down in the arena floor, Haku had discovered that winning this fight was not going to be as simple as some of the fights in the forest, but she had a few tricks up her sleeve. Shoten. Demonic ice mirrors, Haku yelled, and a large mirror appeared behind the newest member of the Yoinokuchi. Whoa, ice release. That is a very rare bloodline nowadays, Asuma said. As more mirrors began to seemingly grow out of the first one until they created a dome of 12 mirrors on ground level and 8 floating in the air. Haku then stepped right inside the mirror, shocking most of the genin. Once inside the mirror, Haku was far faster than Kankuro's puppet, but nothing she did would put him down. But similarly, there was nothing the Kankuro puppet could do to even scratch the ice. Then she saw it, the chakra threads that were connected to the puppet. If she was not inside the ice which was acting to magnify her vision, she would have never saw it. Following the chakra thread with her eyes, she found the real Kankuro and planed her attack. A small section of the ice mirrors vanished as Haku made her way to the opposite side of the dome. Kankuro, who was too busy trying to keep up with the ice user's movements, didn't notice that the section missing was facing his real body. Then it was over. A hail of Senbon needles flew out of the opening in the dome and struck into the real Kankuro's body. Several seconds later, the puppet Kankuro fell to the ground and Haku jumped out of the ice mirrors and went to inspect the real Kankuro, who couldn't move his arms or his right leg as he struggled to stand. I think it would be wise to concede defeat, Haku said. Taking out a kunai for the final strike. Proctor, I concede, Kankuro said bitterly. Kankuro Subaku is unable to continue and surrendered. Winner, Haku Momoichi. Once Haku was declared the winner, she removed the Senbon from Kankuro and pulled him to his feet. That was quite a good strategy. If it wasn't for my ice mirrors improving my vision, the result may have been different, Haku admitted. Yeah. Thanks, I guess, Kankuro said grumpily before stalking off back to his team. Naruto found the next match to be incredibly interesting. ShinobiUltimate vs Choji Akamichi. Two of Konoha's premier clans going head to head. For a long while it looked like Choji had the Aburame on the run. But every time it looked like Shino was going to get hit, he dissolved into bugs. Naruto struggled to see Shino's endgame in allowing Choji to attack and only defend, until he remembered the Kikachu beetle that the Aburame had sent to investigate him during the first task. Naruto could see why he was allowing Choji to attack constantly. Shino's beetles were eating away at his chakra. And sure enough, after almost 15 minutes, Choji collapsed into unconsciousness. Okay, there are only 2 damn matches left, and I still haven't had my turn, Akemi wailed. Don't be a baby, Naruto said. Sure, you can talk. You had your match already, Akemi moped. They turned expectantly to the board, but Akemi was once again to be denied. Gaara Subaku vs Masumi Suguri. This was not so much a match as it was a waste of time. At the very start, Gaara sent a wave of sand that broke both of Masumi's legs, causing the proctor to call the match after about 3 seconds. Well, that was fast, Naruto said. Akemi didn't hear him, she was too busy jumping up and down in anticipation. She knew that it was finally her turn to compete. And once Masumi had been removed by the medics, both Akemi and Lee jumped from the railing down into the center without bothering to wait for the computer to tell them that they would be fighting. The final match will be Akemi Hayaku versus Rock Lee. Fighters ready? Hayate asked, coughing while he talked. Yes, I have been ready since the first match, Akemi said, bouncing up and down on the spot eagerly. Yosh, I finally get a chance to prove that I am a splendid shinobi, Lee said just as eagerly as Akemi. Then begin, the proctor called. Both Akemi and Lee moved at the same time, blurring away. This was when Lee got his first shock. Akemi was much faster than he was despite all of his training. Lee's punch missed and Akemi slipped underneath his strike, delivering a knee to Lee's chest, knocking him back. Wow, she's fast, Kiba yelled. Indeed, but she doesn't look like she has anywhere near the lean muscle mass to be that fast, Asuma said. It's because she isn't, Jiraiya informed the ninja. What do you mean? Guy asked. She isn't that much faster than most newly promoted Chunin. Her speed is all generated from her unique Kekkei Genkei, Jiraiya said. Kekkei Genkei? So what does she have? Kurenai asked, highly intrigued, seeing that Akemi was now expertly dodging Lee's strikes and getting in her own. The only thing that was keeping Lee in the match was his superior physical conditioning. Her mother had the Kumo bloodline limit known as Storm Release. But there was a mutation of the bloodline within Akemi, and she didn't get the Suiten element in her bloodline and instead just received Raiden and Fuden, creating her Swift Release. She channels the lightning and wind chakra around and through her body to allow for a dramatic increase in speed, Jiraiya said. Amazing, Guy said, turning back to the fight where Lee had still not managed to land a decent hit. Lee, take them off, he called, knowing it was the only way that his pupil would be able to win this match. Lee heard his sensei, and was incredibly grateful for the permission. You are truly a worthy opponent, and as such will have the privilege of fighting me without my weights, Lee said before jumping to the top of a pillar. What are a couple of weights going to do? Akemi thought skeptically, but all skepticism was replaced with shock when 2 sets of weights hit the ground, creating a large crater. Okay, that might make a difference. I am going to need to pick this up, Akemi thought as Lee charged down from the pillar in a blur, slamming his fist into Akemi, who was just able to block in time by crossing her arms in front of her face. She was still sent sliding back across the arena floor, however, from the sheer power behind the punch. That was some hit. I am surprised the guard wasn't broken, Asuma said. Well, the Raiden and Fuden chakra helps strengthen her muscles and bones. She can take quite a beating and still stand, Jiraiya informed the younger Sarutobi. That is quite a powerful Kekkei Genkei. It almost seems as though she was built for taijutsu and kenjutsu, Kakashi said. Akemi lowered her arms from the previous block and let out a sigh of relief. That was a close one. I need to keep my guard up now. That speed is intense. He could even be close to my maximum, Akemi thought as she started to channel more of her chakra through her body. Lee took off in a blur and not wanting to let him have another shot while she had no momentum took off as well. They clashed in the center fist striking fist and fought for dominance over the other. Sheer speed and strength from Lee, against the swift release of Akemi. In the end Akemi was forced to jump away. At her current power level Lee had more strength in the punch than she did. They clashed again, this time Akemi blocked Lee's punch with one arm while delivering her own with the other. Lee ducked under the punch and attempted to sweep Akemi's legs out from under her. She saw this coming and flipped over Lee to attack from his blind spot, but the green-clad ninja used the momentum from the leg sweep to spin around and kick the kunoichi high up in the side of her arm, sending her flying to the other side of the ring. Akemi was able to readjust in mid-air and turn into a flip landing on her feet, but she had to admit that her arm sorta stung. Not wanting to let Akemi have any more time to adjust after winning the last skirmish, Lee charged in again. This time however Akemi waited until the very last split second to move. That was only possible thanks to the chakra affecting her synapses in a way that allowed for inhuman reaction speeds that rivaled even the Raikage's. Rolling out of the way she delivered a kick right to the center of Lee's back, this time sending the green spandex-loving genin flying. This back and forth continued as the fight wore on. Both shinobi now sporting a fair amount of injuries. Akemi was holding her right arm trying to shake it back to life after being forced to block a particularly powerful kick from Lee. And Lee was panting heavily after several hits to his ribs. "Hey Akemi, if you lose the previous bet is cancelled and you have to buy us both the lunch of our choice," Naruto called, breaking the silence that had spread over the hall since the fighting had intensified. Akemi couldn't help herself, she broke into a small smile and laughed. "Fine. But when I win, you owe me lunch at the Dango hut twice," she yelled back. Lee, thinking that her guard was down, went in for another attack, but Akemi was far more ready than he knew and received a palm to the chest, slightly knocking the wind out of him. But he recovered in time to block the follow-up attack of a kick to the side of the head, but missed the quick jab to the pectoral area, causing him to stumble back. "Sorry, but I think it is time to get serious. I don't want to have to buy Naruto lunch, he can eat a hell of a lot of ramen. But I have got to say I never expected a fight this good. It is almost worth having to wait to go last," Akemi said with a smile. "Yosh, then I too will just have to try even harder to win. You are definitely a worthy opponent," Lee said. Lee bust forward far faster than he had been moving before and got underneath Akemi's guard, kicking her high into the air. "Guy, is that what I think it is?" Kakashi asked up on the balcony. "That's right, the initial lotus," Guy said proudly as he watched Lee untie the bindings on his wrist as he jumped up after Akemi. Akemi saw him following her flight in mid-air using the shadow of the dancing leaf and knew she was in trouble. The exact same moment Lee attempted to wrap Akemi in his bandages, however she created a clone and pulled herself out of the way. She escaped, Neji said in disbelief. Such an expert use of a shadow clone, impressive for someone so young, Asuma said, causing the other Junin to nod in agreement. He got a whole lot faster all of a sudden. What was that? Akemi asked herself as Lee landed and charged forward, still at the highly increased speed. She reacted quickly and pushed a large burst of chakra through her system before rolling out of the way to avoid Lee's strike. "Well, it seems that the gate of opening was still not enough. Looks like I will just have to go all out," Lee said. And he began channeling what little chakra that he had to the various gates that he could open. Guy, how many of the celestial gates can Lee open?" Kakashi asked. "He can open 5 of them," Guy said proudly. 5? Are you insane? That could do quite a lot of damage to his body. He is still developing after all, Kakashi said. Back in the arena, Lee had made it to the Gate of Life and Akemi was starting to sense that something big was about to happen. As Lee's skin turned a shade of red and he started to glow slightly green. "Not good. Looks like he is going for one last attack. I am going to need to leg it," she thought, and she started rapidly increasing the chakra flow around her own body. "Gate of Pain, open," Lee said as chakra began to spiral around him. Akemi on the other hand had lightning dancing around her and what looked like a tornado rising over her body, causing her hair that was normally tidy and slick to flail wildly in the wind, whipping around like it was alive. Gate of limit. Open. Lee said and completely disappeared from almost everyone's sight. Akemi did the same and for around a minute nobody could see anything. But they could feel it. Shock waves of the blows clashing against each other without them stopping to rest, knowing that if they did it would be the end of their fight. Both fighters were running out of steam and Lee's muscles were beginning to tear. It was now a battle to see which would last longer. Akemi burning through chakra faster than Choji goes through a packet of chips, or Lee whose body could not take much more of the punishment he was subjecting it to. The answer in the end came when Akemi and Lee both appeared in the air over the ring, each having jumped from an opposite wall. At first it looked like they had both missed each other with their attack, which was true. At least true about their initial attack. Unfortunately for Lee, Akemi's reaction time was still faster than his and she had raised a knee using Lee's own momentum against him. The green-clad ninja fell to earth in a heap, followed by Akemi, who while she was able to land on her feet was on her last legs, panting heavily and barely able to stand. Proctor. Check him, she panted weakly. He's out cold. Winner is, but Hayate was unable to finish his sentence as Lee struggled to his feet. Impossible. How could he still be able to fight? Akemi said disbelievingly. She had nothing left to fight with. If Lee could move even 1/10 as fast as before he had begun opening the celestial gates, she knew she was done for. Akemi tried to ready herself for an attack, but even the effort of slipping into her battle stance caused her to lose her balance and collapse. Well, that's it, I am done, she thought as she pulled herself back into a standing base. But to her shock, Lee hadn't moved. What the? She thought out loud, looking at Lee, wondering why she hadn't been pummeled when it was obvious she had nothing left. He is unconscious. He has been before he stood up, Hayate said. No way. And he is still trying to fight despite being knocked out. Akemi said slowly and carefully, walking over to check Lee for herself. He is. Rock Lee is unable to continue. Winner Akemi Hayaku. The proctor called, causing her to sigh in relief and allow herself to sit down and relax. Oh man, I'm beat, she thought, lying back. Guy arrived to carry Lee over to the medic team where they had a stretcher waiting. While Naruto approached his exhausted friend. Need a hand? He asked, kneeling down beside the fallen Kunoichi. No. Otherwise you will always remind me of how I got beaten up by a genin. Akemi huffed, although the more she thought about the more she knew she would need help to stand. That was no ordinary genin. He was fighting to prove to everyone that he could be a top ninja with only taijutsu. His sensei told us about him while you were fighting. He has a rare disease that prevents him from using any nin or genjutsu. And personally I think he has done an excellent job. Not many junin can keep up with you when you fight at full strength. For him to do it at 14 is amazing. That said, I am already never going to let you forget this, Naruto said, chuckling at the end. Jerk. Just help me up already, I don't think I can stand, she said, accepting Naruto's hand as he pulled her back to a standing base and allowed her to rest her weight on him so the pair could move to the front of the hall where all the winners had gathered minus Sasuke to find out what happens now. So what will you do if we have to fight again? Naruto joked. Use you as a human shield, Akemi replied. Naruto and Akemi arrived with the small group that was progressing to the finals as they stood in front of the Hokage. Congratulations all of you on making it to the finals. They will be held in 1 month's time to give you all time to prepare. Please step forward one at a time and draw a number, the Hokage said as Anko walked forward with a box that rattled with what sounded like ping-pong balls. Kiba, who was highly eager to get his number, rushed to the front of the queue. 5. He called out, raising the small ball over his head. Up on the screen, a table that looked like it was designed for a knockout tournament appeared, and on the 5th line down the name of Kiba Inuzuka appeared. Up next was Neji, who drew the number 1, and Haku, who pulled number 3. Looks like we're up next, Naruto said, helping Akemi approach the snake mistress, who had a strange look of envy for the young Kunoichi who was supported by Naruto. Ladies first, Naruto said, offering the box to the exhausted Kunoichi, who drew the number 2, making the first match of the finals Neji Hyuga versus Akemi Hayaku. Alright, here's hoping for an early fight, Naruto said as he put his hand into the box and felt around for a ball that he hoped had a number in the early fights. Number 10. Naruto said in disappointment as he realized that he would be fighting last. Tamari went next and drew the number 8. Followed by Gaara, whose eyes lit up with excitement when he got a 9. Shikamaru drew a 7 and Shino a 6, which left Sasuke with number 4. There we have it. The fights for the first round of the finals will be as follows. Neji Hyuga vs Akemi Hayaku, Haku Momoichi vs Sasuke Uchiha, Kiba Inuzuka vs Shino Aburame, Shikamaru Nara vs Tamari Subaku, and the final match of the first round Gaara Subaku vs Naruto Uzumaki, Hayate said. Naruto and Gaara looked at each other. Both seemed confident, but Gaara seemed to be thrilled with the pairing. He had a murderous look in his eye and a very demonic-looking smile to add to the unnerving appearance of the short red-haired Jinchuriki. "Hey, knew you guys would all make it through," Jiraiya said once they made their way back out to the village via a tunnel that ran underneath the Forest of Death. Naruto, who was still supporting his dark-haired teammate, who was struggling to keep her eyes open from chakra exhaustion, rolled his eyes at this. "Well, I'm glad you had faith in us, Jiraiya-sensei. I mean, we have all had experience in fighting against Junin, so a couple of genin shouldn't have been that hard," Naruto said. "You say that, but look at what happened to her," Jiraiya said, pointing to Akemi, who was dragging her feet as she walked. "Well, she just got a very motivated opponent. But I think I should get her back to the hotel," Naruto said, and without even asking he readjusted Akemi so he was carrying her bridal style to allow him to move at faster speeds. Akemi was too tired to argue or fight back at being held that way and just decided to cling on and hope Naruto as he jumped from building to building over rooftops. "You drop me and you're dead. Got it?" she said seriously. It was a rather uneasy experience for Akemi to be completely helpless while someone else carried her, and that feeling of not having any power forced her to cling onto Naruto with all of her remaining strength every time he took another large jump. Before she knew it, however, Naruto was placing her down. Not knowing what he was doing, she refused to let go until she felt the soft bed beneath her. "There you go. I bet you will be asleep for days with the amount of chakra you have burned," Naruto said before turning to leave. "You still owe me lunch at the Dango hut." Twice. Akemi called out weakly before Naruto could leave the room. Naruto was about to reply with a comeback saying that carrying her across town was worth far more than 2 lunches, but he stopped when he heard her lightly snoring. "Oh well, I will tell her later," he thought before leaving her room for his own. Hokage Tower. Hiruzen had so far had an enjoyable day. He had been able to witness some good bits of skill from his up-and-coming ninja and saw that Jiraiya had been teaching Naruto his father's jutsu, if not telling him about the truth that the Yondaime was indeed Naruto's father. His good mood was extinguished the moment he entered the room, however, as he found not only a massive stack of paperwork but the one thing that could make his life just as miserable, the village elders and Danzo. "Ah, Hiruzen, how were the preliminary rounds?" Danzo asked. "I am sure you were watching. They are shown in all of the Junin bars and ninja-only areas of the village," Hiruzen said. "Yes, I did see, and I would like to know why it is you kept the fact that Naruto Uzumaki has returned to the village a secret," Danzo replied. "Mostly to avoid this exact conversation," the Hokage said, showing that he was still rather quick-witted in his old age. "He is a military asset to this village and therefore must be brought under our control. With my emotional conditioning and training, he will become a great asset to this village," Danzo said. "He is not a shinobi of this village. And I will not permit you to turn him into a drone. But don't take me for a fool, you don't just want him because of the Kyuubi. You know as well as I do the power Naruto holds in his eyes. You want them for yourself," Hiruzen said. Danzo didn't reply and kept a calm, expressionless exterior appearance. "Then don't give Danzo the boy, but he must be returned to the village. We have called a council meeting to discuss what is to be done," Koharu said. Oh, please tell me you didn't. We all know how these things turn out, the Hokage sighed. I am afraid it is too late. The prospect of the village regaining the Kyuubi and also a ninja who possesses the Rinnegan is too great to ignore. I am sorry Hiruzen, but this has to be done. We will be expecting you in the council chambers tomorrow afternoon, Homura said, leaving the room along with Danzo and Kaharu. I knew this would happen once they discovered Naruto was not only in the village but far stronger than they could have imagined, Hiruzen thought as he collapsed in his seat knowing he was in for hell. I will advise you not to let the council have their way. Naruto does not take well to being forced to do something. Also, if you do attempt to capture him by force, I hope you have a lot of body bags in waiting, Jiraiya said as he seemed to grow out from the wall. I was wondering when you would show yourself. You may be stronger than me now, Jiraiya-kun, but I am not known as the god of shinobi for nothing, Hiruzen said, stating that he knew Jiraiya was in the room the entire time. I will get you one of these days, old man, Jiraiya joked before taking a seat. So what do you suggest I do about Naruto? Hiruzen asked. Nothing. They will bitch and moan, but at the end of the day, you are the Hokage and have final say of everything that happens in the village. And if someone tries something without your knowledge, they will be dealt with by Naruto however he sees fit, Jiraiya said. So you suggest I just let Naruto kill any who attack him? The aged Hokage asked. I don't see, why not? If you make it clear that Naruto is not to be touched under any circumstances, and let them know that he will defend himself if necessary, Jiraiya answered. It may be the best course of action. After all, I am sure you will not hesitate to rescue Naruto should he be taken, Hiruzen surmised. You can bet your life on it. Minato trusted me to look after the kid and I plan on doing it, Jiraiya said firmly. Then I will take your warning to the meeting. I think they might be a little less likely to target Naruto if he is defended by a member of the Sannin, Hiruzen said. 2. Actually, if Tsunade Hime finds out he was captured, she would burn the place to the ground to get him back. She treats him like he is her little brother or even son, Jiraiya said. Well, then the warning will hold even more weight behind it. Now, was there a reason you came here to see me? The Hokage said, deciding to change the topic. Oh yes, I have the scroll with detailed information that Naruto was able to collect from the Genin team from Oto, Jiraiya said, tossing over the scroll. He waited for Hiruzen to start reading before he continued. Their mission was to kill Sasuke Uchiha. But this was nothing but a ploy to test Sasuke's ability with the curse seal. Naruto was able to discover that Orochimaru does indeed plan to attack Konoha sometime soon, but they were not sure of the time frame we are looking at, Jiraiya said. I see this as indeed disturbing news. Is there anything else? Hiruzen asked. Yeah, Naruto believes but cannot prove as of yet that Suna is helping Orochimaru with the attack. As the Oto Genin were given specific instructions to not get in the way of the teams from Suna, Jiraiya said. Thank you, Jiraiya. This is extremely valuable information. I will have my best men look into this deeper, Hiruzen said. We will of course all still be on the lookout for any more leads that may help, Jiraiya said. Yet again you have my thanks. Now I should probably get ready for this accursed council meeting, Hiruzen said with a sigh. Alright. Good luck with that. I am glad I don't have to go to them anymore. They were always the worst part of returning to the village, Jiraiya said, and he stood up and left via an open window. The years pass but you still stay the same, Jiraiya-kun, the Hokage said to himself fondly before the depressing reality of an upcoming council meeting struck again. Council chambers, 1 day later. Hiruzen entered the large oval room that was split down the middle by 2 large desks on either side. At the closest point there was the desk where the Hokage would sit and 2 empty seats reserved for Tsunade and Jiraiya. At the far end and at the point of 2 large banks of chairs to either side that made up a semicircle sat the elders and Danzo. To one half of the semicircle sat the clan heads and top-ranking Junin that cared enough to show up. And on the other side there was the civilian council who were already in full swing yelling demands at the old Hokage even before he sat down. What's this we hear about that thing being allowed back in the village? One loud banshee with bright pink hair screeched over the top of all the other civilians. She was so loud even Shikaku Nara was woken from his slumber. Troublesome, he muttered before lowering his head back onto the desk. He was not able to return to his sleep however. Because Hiruzen decided to put an end to the civilian counselor's inaudible demands. Silence. He roared with great authority that caused even the stoic Danzo to recoil slightly. Good, now as it was the elders who called for this meeting, I believe they should explain exactly why we are here, Hiruzen said. Very well. We are here because of this, Danzo said, and two large screens descended from the ceiling on either side of the room. One hung above the Hokage's head and the other above the elders. On the screen there was footage of a certain match in the Chunin exam preliminaries. Oh look, it's my daughter's match. Mrs. Haruno yelled at the top of her lungs, causing those around her to wince. Then she saw who it was Sakura was fighting. Those whisker marks and that blonde hair, you let my daughter fight that monster. She yelled incredulously. Please, Councilwoman Haruno, quiet and watch, Koharu said, pointing to the screen as the match started. While the shinobi were all watching with wide eyes, stunned and intrigued by whatever Naruto was using to prevent any of Sakura's attacks from coming close. The civilians were cheering the fact that they thought it was Sakura who was on top. Then came the defining moment when Sakura bad-mouthed Naruto and his parents, earning roars of approving laughter from the civilians and angry glares from the shinobi. Particularly those that knew just who Naruto's parents were. Sakura's mother was just about to yell out how proud she was of her daughter for putting the demon in its place when the match ended. A Rasengan to the stomach is a definitive match winner. I want him executed for what he did. He attacked my daughter. Mrs. Haruno demanded shrilly. What for? It was part of the Chunin exams. All he did was win his match, Inoichi said, bewildered by the banshee's statement. Killing this child is out of the question, came the voice of Danzo. You are all ignorant to what this boy truly is, he added. What do you mean? He is nothing but a vile creature that should have been exterminated long before he got this powerful, a short and fat civilian said. Fool. Look at this, Danzo said, and pointing to the screen it moved into a close-up of Naruto's face, more importantly his eyes. So what? His eyes have changed since he was a child, big deal. That just proved the Kyuubi has more influence on him than before, a balding man yelled. It doesn't surprise me that nobody recognizes those eyes. But maybe this will help, Danzo continued and put up a picture of a silhouette of a man with what appeared to be horns and hair that spiked off to one side. The only color that remained in the photo and was the 6 red magatama around his neck and purple ripping eyes that perfectly matched Naruto's own. Several members of the Shinobi Council gasped in shock, realization hitting them in the face like a super-powered Tsunade punch. But most of the room were even more confused. What is that supposed to be? All I see is a person with those same disgusting-looking eyes, the balding civilian scoffed. That is the only known picture of the Sage of Six Paths. Although many believed it to be nothing but a hoax. And those eyes are better known as the Rinnegan, the most powerful dojutsu in the ninja world, Koharu said. It is also a very distinct possibility that Naruto may be a distant relative of the Raikudo Sennin. Or even the reincarnation, Homura added. This is why the boy must not be harmed permanently. However, since he has left the village he has no attachments to it. He needs to be captured and brought back under the control of Konoha. He would be the ultimate weapon for this village. A Jinchuriki who possesses the eyes of the Raikudo Sennin, Danzo said. You say that as though you think it would be easy to capture him. We know nothing about the boy's full talents and you assume to capture him and that will make him join the village. That will more likely drive him to despise Konoha, Shikaku said. That is why we will put him through emotional training. He will be a perfect weapon for this village, Danzo said. He will be a perfect weapon for you. Hiyashi Hyuga said. We should try and tempt Naruto to stay of his own free will, not by force. And if that fails, an alliance of friendship and understanding would be the best option, Shikaku added. I agree. However, I find the chances of convincing the boy to stay are slim, considering the way he had been treated in this village as a child, ShinobiUltimate said. He is our Jinchuriki, and a vital part of Konoha's military. We can't just let him leave the village. Koharu demanded. Enough. Hiruzen said loudly to get everyone's attention. We will not take any action to keep Naruto in this village. I have been warned against it, and the warning has the backing of both Jiraiya and Tsunade. Any action against Naruto would be seen as an attack against both of the two members of the Sannin. Now, with that said, this is a warning to anyone who thinks it would still be a wise idea to try and capture Naruto, delivered to me by Jiraiya himself. If you are planning to attack Naruto, you better have a lot of body bags, Hiruzen said, changing the warning just slightly and directing it at Danzo, who he knew would not let the issue rest. The civilians seemed to be neither here nor there. On the one hand, they wanted Naruto dead because they thought he was being controlled by the Kyuubi. And on the other hand, there was a possibility that Naruto was related to the man who was once considered a god and worshipped to the point that he became a myth. And even though Naruto didn't know it for the first time in his life, the entire civilian council did not want him dead. Although those that didn't want him dead agreed with Danzo that he should be stripped of any freedom and locked away to be used as a weapon. We cannot allow ourselves to be bullied by a couple of ninja, it doesn't matter who they are. Allowing Naruto to leave this village will be a sign of weakness that the other villages will see and try to take advantage of. Koharu said. She is right, the boy must be kept in this village, Danzo demanded. You know, I really don't enjoy being called the boy, came the voice of Naruto. Several people were looking around for the Jinchuriki, but he was nowhere to be found. Where are you, demon? A civilian who hadn't been swayed in his thoughts yelled. Oh, you know, here and there. It's rather easy to hide a chakra signature when you have near-perfect chakra control. Something that Jiraiya-sensei still lacks, Naruto said as he seemed to grow out of the wall. He hid himself perfectly, not even Jiraiya is that good with his chameleon jutsu. Perfect chakra control indeed, Hiruzen thought as Naruto casually walked into the center of the room. Hey Gigi. Jiraiya-sensei told me you were having a council meeting to discuss me and well. I couldn't help myself, Naruto said with a friendly smile. This is a private meeting. It is not something an outsider is allowed to hear. A civilian counselor said. He's right. The demon just broke Konoha law. Arrest him. Another civilian yelled. Didn't you just break a law of Konoha? And I have every right to be here as this meeting is directly affecting me, Naruto said. You have some nerve preaching to us, boy. Mrs. Haruno screeched. You use labels like demon, thing, and on the far nicer occasions, boy, to make you all feel superior to me because you are scared of my burden. I can assure you I am none of those things, and my name is Naruto. But if you so wish to see or feel the power of the Kyuubi, then I guess that can be arranged, Naruto said. Are you threatening us? Danzo said, narrowing his eyes. Not at all, simply stating fact that there is a big difference between me and Kyuubi, Naruto said. Then why are you here? Danzo asked. Oh, I just wanted to find out what this village really thought of me, and what they decided to attempt to do about me now that you have found out that I am not only alive but unattached to any village, Naruto said calmly. And what have you found? Danzo asked. Well, the civilians have shown me that I will never be welcomed in this village completely by them. But the shinobi, well, at least the clan heads seem to not only be reasonable but trustworthy. Something that could not be said about you, Naruto said. Danzo didn't respond to the direct attack on his person and simply narrowed his eyes. So overall, how do you feel about the village? Homura asked. This village is not my home. My home is with my friends and comrades. If I was to live here I would not be happy, and as such even the thought of me joining the ranks of the Konoha shinobi is laughable, Naruto said. Then why not all of you stay? The inclusion of 2 new bloodlines along with your own would reaffirm Konoha's place as the strongest of the hidden villages, Homura said. While I do appreciate the offer, I am afraid I have to decline. That would be worse than before because while I may be slightly happier in Konoha with them here, they would be given the same treatment that I received. I will not make their lives difficult just for my sake, Naruto said. There must be something you want, that we can offer you. Koharu asked. Sorry, but there isn't anything that I want from this village, Naruto answered. I see, and is that your final decision? Danzo asked. Yes it is. Now if you will excuse me, I have to go buy quite a lot of dango to repay a lost bet, before those civilian assholes spread the word about who I am in the village. And I get banned from all the stores, Naruto said before he puffed out of existence. He was a shadow clone. This can't be over, that boy needs to be returned to this village. One way or another, Danzo thought. With Naruto. Naruto had been meditating, his entire consciousness focused on his clone. But once it dispelled, he picked himself up and true to his word he went out to buy enough dango for several lunches just in case Akemi wasn't satisfied with what he would have brought her when she woke up from her power nap, which had now lasted well over 24 hours. After all, Naruto knew from experience, waking up after suffering from chakra exhaustion made you hungry. He ran into Haku on the way out of the hotel. Hey Haku, wanna come with? I am going to go get Akemi about a week's supply of dango to pay off the bets I lost, Naruto said. Well I would, but if you do that then I should probably wait until she has finished what you get her before I buy some more. That way we can make sure none of it goes off, Haku said. Suit yourself. Wanna come anyway? It has gotta be better than just hanging around the hotel all afternoon, Naruto asked. Sure, why not? I mean, it is something to do, Haku replied, and the pair left. They walked through the village peacefully. The sun was starting to set on the afternoon and Konoha was covered in a yellow glow. I don't think we will be staying in Konoha for the full month, Naruto said, breaking the silence. It wasn't an awkward silence but more of a comfortable one. Haku was still not that familiar with Naruto, and her stoic nature meant that she very rarely was the one to start conversations with the blonde. Why not? Will we be returning to the hideout? Haku questioned. I would say that is most likely where we will go. As for why, you will probably find out by the time Akemi wakes up. The civilian council found out who I am, so I expect we will all start to be given some rather unfair treatment. It would be safer for us all to just leave the village. Sorry, I know you must have been enjoying being the hospitality and freedom that you may not have had while working with Zabuza, Naruto said. It's alright, I understand completely. I do have one question though, Haku said, a small smile starting to form on her face. Oh really? What's that? Naruto asked casually. Where are we going? The dango hut is in the other direction, Haku chuckled. Well, in truth I had no idea where it was, so I was just wandering around. So why don't you lead the way? Naruto suggested. Haku agreed and they turned around. With Haku now leading the way, they found the dango hut in no time at all, and Naruto proceeded to pick up one of the largest orders of dango they had ever been given. Naruto basically got multiple sticks of every flavor they had. He wanted to be sure that there was enough that not even Akemi, who always tried to get the most out of every situation, could complain. They left the dango hut carrying an almost humorous amount of food that Naruto was carrying in a large bag. When Naruto and Haku were about a block away from making it back to the hotel, however, Naruto froze. Haku, can you take this inside? There is something I have to do, he said, handing the large, rather full bag of sweets over to Haku, who reluctantly accepted to take it the rest of the way. Haku watched, wondering what was going on as Naruto jumped off in the opposite direction. The blonde kept his speed constant as he jumped from building to building and didn't stop when he made it to the closest training ground. He kept up his speed until he was far away from any possible disturbances. He landed in a clearing and sat in a meditative position in complete silence until he felt a presence. I was wondering when you would show up. But I really didn't expect it to happen so soon. Are you going to come out, or are you going to just sit there spying on me? Naruto said calmly. He was still in a meditative position with his eyes closed as he spoke. You knew. came a raspy voice as the newcomer stepped out from the woods behind where Naruto was sitting. I knew you would come and find me the first chance you got the moment you drew my number in the exams, Gaara. The question is, why are you here? Have you come to kill me already? Naruto said. He slowly rose after speaking and turned to face the red-haired Jinchuriki. I can't wait. Your blood will be the ultimate justification of my existence. Gaara said darkly, and his sand began to swirl around him. Justification of your existence, huh? You know, I was a lot like you. I used to act out to get people to recognize me. It's painful, isn't it? Being alone and unloved. I am a Jinchuriki just like you. I know how you must have been treated, Naruto said. Is that why you are strong? Because of the hatred you hold for these people and need to justify your own existence. Did the pain that they caused you make you powerful? Gaara said. At first that is what I believed. I never knew my real parents, and I was hated and ignored by everyone. I started acting out, playing pranks whenever I could, because the times when the ninja would chase me after a prank was the only time anyone ever acknowledged me. But when I was kidnapped and left to die in the land of forests, all I could think about was getting back to Konoha and getting my revenge on the people who kidnapped me. I was saved, however, by a civilian family. They took me in and treated me with love and kindness, something I had never really experienced before, and I would say has been denied to you as well. Things were great for me and I didn't even care about Konoha or even being a shinobi anymore. But things ended badly and my family was killed right before my eyes. I was so angry, all I could think about was killing the people who had harmed my family. And I was given the power to do just that. Although I cannot remember it, I am positive that I killed the ninja that had killed them, Naruto said. Did you lose control, like I can? Gaara asked. He had come here to kill the blonde, but he couldn't help but be enthralled by his story. Well, I did lose control, but not in the way you are thinking. Anyway, when I woke up I was in the ruins of my old house and there was my soon-to-be sensei Jiraiya looking over me. He explained that what had happened was a side effect of me awakening my Kekkei Genkai. When I thought about it, I believed that it was my hatred and anger that had made me strong, Naruto said. Gaara grinned his evil grin, thinking that Naruto was indeed just like him and the only thing that mattered was his own power. But I was wrong. Jiraiya sensei told me that it wasn't hatred that made me powerful, it was a need to save the ones I loved. I never really understood what he meant when he said that until I met Haku, my teammate. She told me that true strength comes from the need to protect something special, because when you have that need you will push beyond your limits, something that is not possible if you are only fighting for yourself. When I look at you I see what might have become of me if I stayed in this village and people continued to ignore and hate me, Naruto said. Gaara was slightly annoyed. He thought he had found someone just like him. Someone who fought for himself and his own power, nothing else mattered. Your blood will make mother very happy, Naruto Uzumaki, he said before sending a huge wave of sand towards the blonde. Naruto rolled out of the way and prepared a jutsu. Kaden. Great fireball jutsu, he yelled, and with only one hand seal, being the one for fire, Naruto blew out a massive ball of flames that went careening towards the red-haired Jinchuriki. Naruto hit dead on, but he knew it wasn't over. And when the flames cleared, Naruto wasn't disappointed. There Gaara stood with a shield of sand blocking the flames. Well, it is good to see you are not beaten so easily, Naruto said. You don't need hand seals, how is that possible? Gaara asked. Near perfect chakra control, I only need hand seals for summoning and to decide what type of jutsu I need to use. At least for most jutsu. Some top-ranked jutsus still require hand seals, Naruto replied. Gaara didn't reply in any other way but sending several spears of sand towards Naruto. Sweden. Water encampment wall, Naruto yelled and pulled water from a nearby river, forming a large wall that blocked Gaara's sand. You are annoying me, just die already. Gaara yelled. Tempting but no thanks, Naruto joked as he rolled away from another onslaught of sand. Back in Konoha, Haku had placed the dango that Naruto had brought into his fridge and gone to check on Akemi. She was still sound asleep when the ice user entered the room, but it looked as though she had begun to stir in her sleep. Haku decided to stay as she knew that Akemi would be waking soon and it would be best that someone be around to at least tell her how long the speedy kunoichi had been out. 15 minutes later Akemi slowly opened her eyes. Well, it's about time you woke up, Haku said from beside her bed. I feel like I have been asleep forever, Akemi sighed while stretching and rolling out of bed in the same clothes she had been in during her fight with Lee. Aw man, I am still in this, I must stink. She whined. You haven't been asleep that long, only a little over a day and a half. And you are still in your clothes because Naruto dropped you back here and you went straight to sleep. I didn't return until later and by that time you were already fast asleep. So Naruto chose to leave you as you were not wanting to undress you himself, Haku said. I see, so where is he now? Haku asked. I don't know, we went out to pick up the dango that he owed you. But on the way back he gave me the dango to return to his room and he went off on his own, it was sorta weird. He was fine one moment and then the next he just took off towards the other side of the village, Haku said. That's weird. Maybe I should go out and find him, he could be in trouble, Akemi said as she got out of bed but still felt weak. You have said yourself that he is unbeatable, Haku asked with a small chuckle. In one-on-one I think he is. But if it is a group of people he is as vulnerable as anyone else, Akemi said. My oh my Akemi-chan, are you worried about Naruto-kun's safety? Haku teased. Why would I be worried about him? He can take care of himself. I just want to make sure he is not under attack, because if they target him we will be next, Akemi said angrily. If you say so, no need to get angry about it. I guess I will go find him. You need to stay here and regain your strength. I'll get the dango for you, Haku said before leaving the room, returning later to set down a large box full before leaving again. With Naruto. You can't keep running forever, Naruto Uzumaki. Gaara yelled as Naruto dropped down behind a tree using it to block the sand. Maybe not but I can try, Naruto joked. Damn you Uzumaki. Gaara yelled and the sand that was swirling around him began to thicken, covering half his body in sand, forming a demonic body that had the ears and tail of a raccoon. Looks like this is getting extreme, I really don't want to have to kill him. I need to question him about Suna's plans with Orochimaru. Also he reminds me so much of myself, I want to help him, but how? Naruto thought as Gaara's sand started moving even faster and began to form a fist as it chased right after the blonde. Gaara was becoming more and more frustrated at Naruto's ability to avoid every attack and be able to counter each of his moves with what seemed like little effort. In fact, this was true in the fact that Naruto rarely had to use his gravity manipulation to counter the sand. But the longer the fight went on, the more Naruto noticed Gaara was being influenced by the Aikibi. He is really not stable, there must be something wrong with his seal, Naruto thought before creating a large wall of mud to stop Gaara's sand. Gaara's sand cloak had now fully enveloped Gaara and his eyes had changed from green to yellow with black scree. All in all, it was a shocking sight to anyone who knew that inside the large monster made of sand there was a small red-haired teenager. Okay, enough playing around, Gaara. Let's just call this a tie. I have no desire to fight you like this, Naruto said, trying to get through to his fellow Jinchuriki. No, you will give me reason to live, I will not let you live, Gaara yelled back. So I take it you wouldn't want to talk about this over ramen then, Naruto joked but quickly ducked under a sharp spike made out of sand that was about to impale him in the head. Naruto shot forward, expertly dodging the attacks Gaara used in an attempt to slow him down before he delivered a punch right to Gaara's face that sent him flying back but left him otherwise undamaged. Damn, that is some good armor. My guess is it works the same way as the chakra cloaks of other Jinchuriki, that makes most physical attacks pointless, Naruto said to himself, but he then noticed that the sand was falling slightly from his face where Naruto had struck with his punch. So it can be removed, I will just need a big enough bang and to attack a weak area in the armor, Naruto thought as he channeled chakra into his eyes to enable him to see the chakra in Gaara's sand. There, just above the tail. There is far less chakra and it is more spaced out, but I don't want to kill him, so I guess I will need to use a explosive tag to get the job done, he thought as he humped back looking for something that he could use as a distraction. Nothing Naruto could find would work, so he began running those some hand seals. Summoning jutsu. Naruto yelled, and after slamming his hands down onto the ground, a large ox appeared with the Rinnegan and several back piercings appeared and without any thought charged forward. It was now Gaara's turn to run. He didn't expect such a large summon to come from Naruto and had to react quickly. He didn't have time to notice just where he jumped to, however, and Naruto appeared from behind him, placing an explosive tag on the small of his back just above the Jinchuriki's tail. Naruto was just able to jump out of the way of Gaara's retaliation punch before the explosive tag activated. The explosion was huge and Naruto just managed to get away from the blast without having to use a jutsu to protect himself. You're still alive, now do you want to give up? I have no desire to hurt you, I have told you that before, Naruto said. His plea fell on deaf ears, however, because once the smoke had left, Gaara was still mostly covered in sand. Damn, what do I have to do to get rid of that sand armor of his? Naruto asked himself as he charged in with a massive punch, knocking Gaara into the air. He then created a shadow clone to throw him above Gaara while it performed several Fuden jutsu to cut away at the sand, preventing it from reforming. The real Naruto had just began his descent, and when he was about to pass the red-haired Jinchuriki, he spun, delivering a devastating kick, knocking him into the ground, creating a massive crater. The attack wasn't over there, however, as Naruto readjusted himself in mid-air and landed fist first into the back of Gaara, who was trying to stand. Naruto jumped back to admire his work, and it had been a complete success. The sand was shattering off of Gaara, who seemed to be frightened but determined. I will not let you eliminate my existence. Feigning sleep jutsu, Gaara said, and he passed out. What is the purpose of putting himself to sleep? Naruto asked himself. The answer came seconds later as sand erupted from everywhere and there was a 100-foot Tanuki standing over him. I'm out, now I can have some fun. I think I will start with you. I don't know how, but I remember those eyes from before I was made. Shukaku roared down at Naruto, who was beginning to think it was not going to be his day. Fuden. Drilling air bullet. The large Tanuki roared before spewing a massive ball of compressed air towards the blonde. Summoning jutsu, Naruto yelled and quickly summoned a large bird to carry him high out of the way of the Fuden jutsu. Well, I was trying to keep this confrontation a secret, but it doesn't look like there is much chance of that now, Naruto thought as he looked down at the large section of forest that was just destroyed by the sand spirit. Shukaku was now firing multiple blasts of compressed air at Naruto, who was able to avoid them thanks to the superior speed of his summons. You pesky fly, stop moving around, I will kill you. The Aikibi roared as he fired off another drilling air bullet. I'm going to need to hit him with something powerful, Naruto said, starting to run through several hand seals at great speed. Kaden. Firestorm blaze, he yelled and released a massive wave of flames that incinerated everything in their path on the way to smashing into the Aikibi. The jutsu removed the Tanuki's left legs, causing it to fall over, but Naruto couldn't celebrate just yet as the sand spirit began to reform. Naruto, what the hell are you fighting? Came a call from below and Naruto turned to see Haku in a tree slightly back from the danger zone. Short answer, the Aikibi. Long answer, Gaara. But I don't have much time to explain at the moment, Naruto replied. How are you supposed to defeat that thing? Haku asked. I'm working on that. I could trap it in a Chibaku Tensei, but I don't want to kill Gaara. I can still save him from himself, all he needs is a good friend, Naruto said. That was when he noticed the small red spot on Shukaku's head. I don't think Biju get pimples. What is that thing? Naruto thought as he silently ordered the large bird he was flying on to get a better look. Upon closer inspection, Naruto saw that it was Gaara. His body was still asleep and placed right in the middle of Shukaku's head. Bingo! I might not be able to stop the Aikibi, but I bet I can still hurt Gaara. He gave control to his Biju when he fell asleep. So I am guessing if I wake him up, he won't be able to maintain this transformation, Naruto thought. Giving the large bird a silent order to get close to Gaara, Naruto prepared to jump off. This was easier said than done, however, with Shukaku using liberal amounts of Fuden Jutsu to keep the large bird as far away from his head as possible. Eventually Naruto got into a position to land on top of the head. Not knowing how long it would take to get another chance, he wasted little time in launching himself off of his summons and landing in front of Gaara. "What are you doing?" Ikibi asked. "I'm waking Gaara so I don't have to deal with you anymore," Naruto replied, charging across the large Tanuki's head. "I can't allow that," Shukaku responded, and the sand around Naruto began trying to capture him. By wrapping around his arms and legs in the sand. "You think this will stop me?" "Shinra Tensei," Naruto yelled, blowing the sand away from his body and allowing him to move into striking distance of the red head. "Gaara, it's time to wake up," Naruto yelled before slamming his fist into the side of Gaara's face. "No, I just got out. Curse you, boy." Shukaku roared as both Naruto and the scared-looking Gaara fell to earth with the giant sand spirit falling apart around them. Naruto landed on his feet, but the punch Naruto had been rather powerful and completely thrown Gaara. For the first time in his life, his sand had not saved him from being hurt. He could feel physical pain. He got up to a sitting base, and when he noticed Naruto slowly walk over to him, he couldn't help but back up in an attempt to get away from the approaching blonde. Stay away from me," he frantically ordered as he backed up against a tree. "I won't let you erase my existence." Naruto paused mid-step. "Why would I want to do that, Gaara? Why would I kill the only person I have met who understands my pain? We are so much alike, we shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be friends," the blonde said. Gaara's eyes widened at Naruto's declaration. "Friends? You would be friends with someone like me, even after I tried to kill you?" he asked. "Sure, why not? As Jinchuriki need to stick together. I bet you only act like this because nobody has simply acknowledged you as a person. But I will, Gaara, you have nothing to fear from me. I want us to become friends," Naruto said. "You acknowledge me, but my reason to exist is to kill, it is the only purpose I have. And you said earlier you fight to protect. How can we get along and be friends knowing this?" Gaara said. "You don't have to kill to justify your existence. Didn't I just do that when I acknowledged you? You don't have to be a mindless weapon for Suna. Find some special people that you think are precious to you, and then you will find out what it means to truly be strong," Naruto said. "Precious people? But everyone hates me. You are the first person to ever ask to be my friend." "I have nobody," Gaara said sadly. "Well, you have me, and that means you will have every one of my friends, because if they don't accept you then they are not friends of mine," Naruto said. "But you will leave and I will once again be alone," Gaara replied. "Then come with us. You are easily strong enough to join us. That was one of the toughest fights I have had in almost a year. You would fit right in, and we even have people that will be able to help you with your sleep problem," Naruto said. Gaara's head raised at this, a chance to not only escape his father's constant attempts on his life, but also start anew with people who will not judge him and are willing to accept him for who he is. "What do I have to do? I want to be able to join you. I will do whatever is necessary. I want to learn what it is like to be truly strong," he said, standing up and moving closer to Naruto. "Then welcome aboard, Gaara. We will have to make some plans to get you away from Suna, but that shouldn't be too hard," Naruto said. "I think I know how we can do it," Gaara replied. "Really? How?" Naruto asked. "During the Chunin exams, Suna is planning to attack Konoha. I have an important role as I am supposed to transform into Shukaku in the middle of the village," Gaara said. "And a battle is the perfect place for someone to go missing and not raise too many eyebrows. Suna will just assume you were killed. That is easy to work out a strategy to get you out safely. But I will have to ask you not to participate in the invasion. The Hokage is like a grandfather to me and I have already agreed to help him dealing with Orochimaru's plans. And Konoha is still my first home. I don't want to see it destroyed," Naruto said. That will not be a problem. I am done with being my father's weapon. I side with you, Gaara said. Gaara, I think we are going to get along just fine. Let's go so you can meet Haku. She arrived towards the end of the fight, Naruto said, and began to lead Gaara back towards the village to where Haku was waiting. Oh Naruto, are you alright? Haku asked when he arrived in a nearby tree. But her guard went up when she saw Gaara. It's alright Haku. Gaara is fine. In fact, you are looking at the latest member of the Yoinokuchi, Naruto said happily. Really? But weren't you two both trying to kill each other? Haku asked shocked. Nah, I would call it more of a minor misunderstanding, Naruto replied while Gaara looked slightly guilty. A minor misunderstanding. If that was a minor misunderstanding, then so was the fight between Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha at the Valley of the End. Haku replied. Naruto chuckled and scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Ah, come on Haku, it wasn't that bad. And besides, now we have Gaara to join us, and I can tell you from experience he is a top fighter, Naruto replied. Well, I can't exactly say anything, after all I haven't been a member for that long myself. So I guess I better welcome you to our group Gaara. It's really a lot of fun and everyone gets along real well, Haku said with a friendly smile which Gaara seemed to struggle to return, but in the end he managed a small smile, probably the first real smile he had since he was young. Alright, so what we need to do is go find Jiraiya-sensei. It's a rather hot day, so I'm guessing he will be at one of the best places to swim in this village. Haku, you can go back to the hotel, I will take Gaara with me, Naruto said. Alright, I guess that's a good idea. Oh, and Akemi has woken up by the way, Haku said. That's awesome. I'll be back once I tell Jiraiya-sensei what is going on with Gaara, Naruto replied. Naruto, Gaara and Haku all went back to the village together and were careful to avoid the squad of Konoha ninja that had been sent out to investigate the large chakra spikes that had appeared outside the village where Naruto had his fight with the red-haired Jinchuriki. Haku split off from Naruto and Gaara when they made it back to the village. The two Jinchuriki began searching the areas around any of the bathhouses or swimming areas and finally found Jiraiya hiding in a tree with a telescope watching women swim far below him by the side of a waterfall. Hey Jiraiya-sensei, Naruto called out, spooking not only the old lecher but all the girls that were within earshot of Naruto's loud yell. Hey damn it Gaki, what was that for? You scared all the women away, Jiraiya whined as he dropped out of the tree and turned to face Naruto. Well, I needed to talk to you without you getting distracted. I brought with me a new friend of mine and also the next member of the Yoinokuchi, Naruto said. Oh really? And who might that be? Jiraiya asked. Naruto made a sign to the nearby trees and Gaara appeared in a swirl of sand. Gaara Subaku. The Jinchuriki for the Aikibi, Shukaku, Naruto said. Kid, are you sure this is a good idea? Jiraiya asked. Yes, I am sure. They have been treating him just as badly if not worse than I did was in Konoha. And he hasn't been able to escape it, but not anymore, he is going to come with us, Naruto said. Do you realize what will happen if they find out we took him? Jiraiya questioned. All of Suna would be after us, but that isn't going to happen, because we have a plan. We also have the perfect time for his extraction, Naruto replied. Really, when would that be? The Toad Sage asked. During the finals of the Chunin exams. Suna is planning an invasion of Konoha along with Oto, Gaara said. Jiraiya's eyes widened at this. And you are just willing to hand this information over to us even though we are both friends of the Hokage? Jiraiya asked Gaara in shock. Yes. I no longer desire to be a Suna ninja, I want to go with you both and learn what it is like to have friends and to become truly strong to protect them, Gaara said. So as you can see, we have a perfect opportunity to rescue Gaara without causing any suspicion. Suna will just think that Gaara went missing in the battle, Naruto added. Alright, sounds like a plan. Welcome aboard, kid, Jiraiya said happily. Oh, there is more. I think something is wrong with Gaara's seal holding back the Biju, Naruto said. Really, let me see, Jiraiya said. Gaara moved closer to Jiraiya tentatively and allowed the perverted sage to inspect his seal. This thing is lacking mental blockers. No wonder there are rumors that you were unstable. Also, by the looks of it, when you sleep, Shukaku takes control, Jiraiya said. That is correct. I have not been able to sleep for most of my life, Gaara admitted. Can you fix the seal, sensei? Naruto asked. Well, I can, but it will have to wait until after the exams. It will be a long process and there are other things we need to focus on. But until then, take some of these, Jiraiya said, handing over a handful of small sealed tags. What are these? Gaara asked. They are seals that suppress demonic chakra. I made them for when I start training Naruto here in how to control the Kyuubi. Put one on before you go to sleep and you will be able to rest easy for about 10 hours, Jiraiya said.